from the Jews.
This bobblehead is just ridiculous.
So yeah, I have no clue why that ad came up right then. Let me try to fix it first, because frankly, like I get that there's advertising, but I have no clue why they think that. And of course, I can't get the skip ad because it's behind all these notifications. Give me a moment. Dang it. This is ridiculous. 1 moment. Close. Okay, I finally got rid of all the notifications. All right, here. Share screen. Present. Share screen. Here.
The construction of the Mishkan, they acted lazy and brought only shoham stones and setting stones after the rest of the people had contributed. At that time, Moshe solicited donations for the Mishkan from the Jews, and he said, "Everyone who has a nadiv lev, an inspiring heart, it should really say, a heart that motivates." I would say inspires. That's really what nadav means. It's something inspires, something that's inside. Motivation is outside. That's another thing to get into for another day. But it's an inspiration to give. He should bring a portion for Hashem, Terumat Hashem, for what? For the construction of the Mishkan. So the Midrash says, and he did not speak exclusively to the Nisim, the leaders. It was bad in our eyes that Moshe did not tell them alone to bring contributions. And so the princes said, let the people bring whatever they will bring, whatever they leave out, well, we'll basically make up for it. We'll add to it. I'd like to point out something very, very interesting here. An alternative interpretation to why the Torah spelled the word Nisi'im defectively by omitting the two Yuds is that it allows the word Nisi'im to be read as clouds.
Hey, Graham.
Clouds.
Welcome.
And that's actually how Nisi'im can be read throughout the passages of Scripture. In fact, Targum Yonatan ben Uziel translates Nisi'im in his translation as Ane Shemaya, which in Aramaic means clouds of heaven. And he says that it was the clouds of heaven that brought the precious stones and the anointment oils, and the Nisi'im in his translation is Ane Shemaya, which in Aramaic means clouds of heaven. And he says that it was the clouds of heaven that brought the precious stones and the anointment oils and the incense, the spices for the incense to the Mishkan. Take a look here, Yonatan ben Uziel to Shemot, Exodus 35, verse 27 to 28. Va'ane Shemaya, and the clouds of heaven, where? It went to the Pishon. What's the Pishon? The Pishon was one of the 4 primordial rivers that came from Mount Eden. Ooh, we'll get to that in a second. And it says, and drew up from there onyx stones and stones for the infilling to encase the ephod and the choshen mishpat, the breastplate, and spread them upon the face of the wilderness. And the princes of Israel went and brought them for the need of the work. And the clouds of heaven again, the Ane Shemaya, returned and went to Gad Eden and took from there choice aromatics and oil of olives for the light, which is for the menorah, and pure balsam for the anointing oil, and also for the sweet incense. Interesting. Once again, I want to direct your attention that the Pishon was one of the 4 primordial rivers that came from Gad Eden. And according to Parshah Bereshit, the Pishon encircled a land called 𐤕𤓅𝐿, which contained precious metals and stones. We see here in Genesis 2, 10 to 14. The Torah says, V'nahar yotze me'eden, a river issued forth from Eden to water the garden, and from there it divided and became 4 headwaters. And the name of the first, the Torah says, is called Pishon. Hu hasove. It went up and in the circle, Erect 𐤕𤓅𝐿, the land of Havilah, Asher Sham hazahav, where there is gold. And it says the gold in that land is good, and the Bedolach is there, and the shoham stone. The name of the second river is Gihon. That one circles the whole land of Cush. And the third river's name is the 𐤕𤓅𝐿, and that one flows towards the east of Assyria, ancient Assyria. And the fourth river is Euphrat, the Euphrates River. Now, I have a separate teaching on this alone for Tu B'Shvat that goes into detail regarding these rivers and the concept of the New Year of trees, because specifically the trees that we refer to in Tu B'Shvat really refers to one tree, Euphrates River. Now, I have a separate teaching on this alone for Tu B'Shvat that goes into detail regarding these rivers and the concept of the New Year of trees, because specifically the tree. And the third river's name is the 𤤕𤓅𝐿, and that one flows towards the east of Assyria, ancient Assyria. And the fourth river is Euphrat, the Euphrates River. Now, I have a separate teaching on this alone for Tu B'Shvat that goes into detail regarding these rivers and the concept of the New Year of trees, because specifically the trees that we refer to in Tu B'Shvat really refers to one tree in the Mishnah, that is the Eitz Chaim, the tree of life that's in Gad Eden. And that's another topic, but I would invite you to take a look at that when you have time. Now, over Masachet Yoma, Chazal testify in relation to what we just read in the Targum Yonatan ben Uziel, that the precious stones used in the Mishkan came from the clouds of heaven. In other words, from the presence of the Shekhinah. Masachet Yoma 75a. They said over there that this teaches that pearls and precious stones fell for the Jews with the mun or manna. As it states there in Exodus chapter 35, verse 27, it says that, and the Nis'im, effectively spelled, teaches that pearls and precious stones fell for the Jews with the Shekhinah. Masachet Yoma 75a. They said over there that this teaches that pearls and precious stones fell for the Jews with the mun or manna. As it states there in Exodus chapter 35, verse 27, it says that, and the Nis'im, effectively spelled, which we can read as clouds, brought the shoham stone. Atana taught that the word Nis'im actually means clouds. Here's a proof text for those who want to see that clouds actually refers to the name Nis'im in Scripture, as is brought down in Proverbs chapter 25, verse 14. And it says over there, Nis'im ve'ruach ve'geshem. That as the cloud and wind without rain, so is he that boasts himself of a false gift.
So the Nisie Ruach Geshem, that's the winds that carry or that lift the rains. It's that to associate that directly as being clouds is kind of reductive.
And so we learn from this that the precious stones fell from the clouds with the mun or with the manna. And that's interesting insight as well, as I did a teaching on Parshah Beshalach regarding the phrase that God told Moshe Rabbeinu, Hineni, behold, that I'm going to bring down, okay, for you the mun, bread from heaven. And that concept there, Hineni, as I explained, refers to the Shekhinah. And I would advise you to take a look at that teaching as well to help boost your emunah and betachon, faith and trust in Hashem, if you're going through a difficult time when it comes to parnosa, financial support as well. So we see here that essentially that everything is coming from the Shekhinah. And so when Chazal teach that precious stones, along with certain aromatic spices and oils, came from Gad Eden, it reveals that in conjunction to the people's contribution to the Mishkan, Hashem himself is the one who contributed to the Mishkan. Yes, HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself has contributed to the Mishkan. There's actually proof of that. I want to show you this at the beginning of the Parsha, Exodus 25, verse 1 through 7. First, the Moshe Lemor. The Bnei Israel vayichui li teruma me'echol ish asher yidvenu libo tichu et terumati. Hashem spoke to Moshe, saying, speak to the Bnei Israel, let them take for me teruma, for every man whose heart inspires him, shall you take my teruma. The verse then goes on to say, pay attention to this, I have some things highlighted in yellow. This is the teruma asher tichu me'itam, that you shall take for them. Zahav v'chesev u'nechoshet u'techelev v'arama v'tola'at shani v'sheish v'izin, gold, silver, bronze, techelet, the sky blue color, purple, scarlet wool, also linen and goat hair, and also what we see here v'chelev v'arama v'tola'at shani v'sheish v'izin, gold, silver, bronze, techelet, the sky blue color, purple, scarlet wool, also linen and goat hair, and also what we see here v'orot elim, and red dye ram skins, also tachashim, and also I left another va'atzei shatim, the very last two words there, that conjunctive vav, should also been highlighted in yellow. Keep that in mind. The first thing goes on to conclude, and it says afterwards, shemin, and there seems to be a typo on my part there when it has the vav next to the sheen in a very small manner. That's a typo, okay? It doesn't have a conjunctive vav there, so please ignore that. Shemin lama or. Then it says oil for the illumination, that's for the ner tamid. And then it goes on and mentions bisamin leshemin, and also spices for the anointment oil, and also for the aromatic incense, shoham stones, the stones for the setting for the ephod, and the choshen. Now I want you to pay close attention here. When Hashem commanded the people to contribute to the Mishkan, the Torah mentions here a list of items that are connected with a conjunctive vav. I'll bring that back up on your screen. You see, each of these yellows are a conjunctive vav. And I messed one up at the end. It's supposed to be highlighted when it says atzei shatim, the acacia wood, that also should have a conjunctive vav there. Okay, there should be a conjunctive vav. So when the people have to give, these items are all connected with a conjunctive vav. They shall give silver, they shall give gold, they shall give bronze, they shall give purple, etc., etc. It's mentioned with a conjunctive vav. When the Torah refers to the oil for the menorah, the aromatic spices and the precious stones, it does not use a conjunctive vav as it just did with the previous items. And once again, on this screen here, ignore that conjunctive vav next to the sheen for shemin at the top. That's not even a conjunctive vav. That's just a typo on my behalf. There's no conjunctive vav whatsoever. What this teaches is that the oil for the menorah, the aromatic spices, and the precious stones were contributions that Hashem made for the Mishkan in relation to the contributions that the people made. So what does this reveal? This confirms what we learned in the Targum and Masachet Yoma, that the oil for the menorah, the aromatic spices, and the precious stones came from where? It came from Gad Eden. Amazing. So far, we have learned that certain items used for the construction of the Mishkan came from the Avot, Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, while other items came from Hashem. And we learned earlier that since certain items came from the Avot, this served as an indication that for the Jewish people to experience Geulah, they needed to return to the spiritual madrega of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. However, in learning that Hashem donated to the Mishkan with items from Gad Eden, this indicates that by returning to the spiritual level of the Avot, the Jewish people were essentially returning to the spiritual madrega of Adam HaRishon when he was in Gad Eden before he disobeyed the command of Hashem. Is there any proof to this? Sure there is. Over Shir HaShirim, Song of Songs, which is an allegory of Shlomo HaMelech. In a way, it's his commentary to the Torah. Shlomo describes Hashem walking in his garden. Read here Shir HaShirim 5:1. Hashem says, "But."
This is a thing that that Rabbi Simon Jacobson had mentioned when I was on the stream with him and Dr. Bob about Basi Lagani or Bati Lagani.
Read here Shir HaShirim 5:1. Hashem says, "Bati legani achoti kala ariti mori." I have come into my garden, my sister, who is also my kala, my bride. Who's that? Israel. I have gathered my myrrh, my spice. I have eaten my honeycomb with my honey. I have drunk my wine with my milk. Eat, friends, drink, and become intoxicated. He says, Dodim, my dear beloved ones. The Midrash comes along and comments on this verse, explaining that when the Mishkan was built, the Shekhinah returned to the earth after it was exiled by the sin of Adam HaRishon. Here's the Midrash of Shir HaShirim. It says over here, Rabbi Menachem, the son-in-law of Rav Elazar bar Avuna, said in the name of Rabbi Shimon ben Rabbi Yosiani. It is not written here. The verse does not say over here that I have come into, or I have came into the garden, into the garden. Rather, it actually says I've come into my garden. By my garden, God meant to say my wedding canopy, as it were, to the place where my principal location was at the beginning. For was the principal location of the Shekhinah not in the lower realms originally? In other words, when this world had an interdimensional reaction with the other worlds. Okay, I explained this previous times before that Adam and Chava, they existed in another dimensional reality in which God existed, but somehow was also connected to this reality, but became separate, allowing this reality to become a lower vibrational frequency, a lower reality, because of the sin of Adam. And so it says, it is written there in Genesis chapter 3:8. It says, "Vayishmi'u et kol Adonai Elohim mitchalach bagan." That they, Adam and Chava, heard the voice of Hashem Elohim moving in the garden. The Midrash goes on to say, Rav Abba said that the word here, mehalech, it is not written here to mean moving. Rather, mithalech is written, which implies withdrawal. For after the sin of Adam and Chava, the Shekhinah was continuously leaping and ascending. For when Adam HaRishon sinned, the Shekhinah withdrew and ascended to the first rakia, the 7 rakiyot, or firmaments of the heavenly world in Jewish cosmology. I've talked about this in my Parshah Noach teaching, 3 parts, dealing with the destruction of the New World Order. When you have time, take a look at it. And it says, when Cain sinned by killing Heva, it withdrew further and ascended to the 2nd rakia. When the generation of Enosh sinned, it withdrew further to the 3rd rakia. The Midrash goes on. When the generation of the Mabul, the flood sinned, it withdrew further to the 4th rakia. When the generation of the Dor HaFlaga, the generation of the separation of the Anshe Migdal Babel, the generation of the Tower of Babel sinned, it withdrew further to the 5th rakia. And it said, when the people of Sodom sinned, it withdrew further to the 6th rakia. And when the Mitzrayim sinned during the days of Abraham, it also withdrew further to the 7th rakia. The Midrash goes on to say, corresponding to these sinners, 7 tzaddikim, righteous ones, arose and brought down the Shekhinah back to earth. Abraham, it says, was meritorious and brought it down from the 7th rakia to the 6th rakia. Yitzchak arose and brought it down from the 6th rakia to the 5th rakia. Yaakov arose and brought it down from the 5th rakia to the 4th rakia. Levi rose and brought it down from the 4th rakia to the 3rd rakia. Kohat arose and brought it down from the 3rd rakia to the 2nd rakia. Amram arose and brought it down from the 2nd rakia to the 1st rakia. Excuse the typo there at first. Should have a T. And what happened afterwards? Amad Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu arose and brought it down to earth. Brought it down to earth with the establishment of the Mishkan. So when Shlomo describes Hashem walking in his garden, Bati Lagani, he's referring to when Hashem Shekhinah dwelt in the Mishkan. When one experienced Hashem in the Mishkan, it was as if they were experiencing Gad Eden. Now it's interesting, back in Parshah Bereshit, when the Torah describes the exile, the galut of Adam HaRishon from Gad Eden, it mentions that there were cherubim, along with a flaming sword guarding the entrance to the garden, to the Eitz Chaim, the tree of life. We read there in Genesis chapter 3, verse 24. And it says, Vayigarash, literally, et Hadam, having driven him out, having divorced him is literally what the Hebrew means. Divorcing the man. Vayashkein mikedem. Okay, from the, we translate this as from the east, Lagan Eden, from the Garden of Eden, but we're going to see that's not exactly what that means. Et ha-keruvim, keruva ve'et lahat ha-cherif. And the cherubim in a flame of the ever-turning sword, regarding the way, lishmor et derech eitz hachaim, to the way of the tree of life. Rashi in his commentary explains that the cherubim were angels of destruction, who possessed a flaming sword to prevent Adam from trying to re-enter the garden. We see here Rashi's commentary, Genesis 3:24. It says, Et ha-keruvim. These were none other than malachei habala. These were destructive angels. They had a blade to threaten Adam against entering Gad Eden anymore. In fact, Targum Onkelos renders sword as a blade is based upon Chazal, who taught there in the Bavli, Masechet Sanhedrin 82a, that is actually kamo shalaf, Okay. However, he says ulashon la'az, but in the French language, which Rashi spoke as part of his language there, it means the word lam. Okay, lam from the Francois, lam, not lame or lame, but lam. Okay. And there are agadic midrashim, Rashi says on this pasuk. However, Rashi says, va'ani va'eli lipeshuto. I only come to explain peshuta shel mikra, just the very simple basic meaning of the text. That's all I'm trying to tell you here. Now, according to Targum Yonatan ben Uziel, when the Torah says, vayashkein mikedem legan eden et hakerovim, it means the presence of Hashem dwelled between the cherubim, mikedem, before the creation of the Garden of Eden. We see here, Yonatan ben Uziel to Genesis 3:24. When it mentions here, he drove out the man from there, where he had made to dwell the glory of his Shekhinah at first, between the two cherubim, before he had created the world. He created the Torah. He prepared the Garden of Eden for the righteous, that they might eat and delight themselves with the fruit of the tree, because they would have practiced in their lives the doctrine of the Torah, and this world, and had maintained the mitzvot, the commandments of the Torah. And it goes on to say afterwards, and it says, and he prepared Gehinom for the wicked, which is like the sharp consuming sword of the two edges. In the midst of it, he had also prepared flames of fire and burning coals for the judgment of the wicked who rebelled in their life against the doctrine of the Torah. To serve the Torah is better than to eat of the fruit of the tree of life, which the word of Hashem prepared, that man in keeping it might continue and walk in the paths of the ways of life in the world, le'alama de'ate, in the world to come. Fascinating piece from the Targum Yonatan ben Uziel. Adam HaRishon experienced the presence of Hashem, similar to how Moshe Rabbeinu experienced the presence of Hashem in the Mishkan. And the Targum mentioned of a fascinating piece from the in the world le'alama de'ate, in the world to come. Fascinating piece from the Targum Yonatan ben Uziel. Adam HaRishon experienced the presence of Hashem. Fascinating piece from the Targum Yonatan ben Uziel. Adam HaRishon experienced the presence of Hashem, similar to how Moshe Rabbeinu experienced the presence of Hashem in the Mishkan. And the Targum mentioned that it is only through the Eitz Chaim, which is the Torah, in the mitzvot of the Torah, that we are able to enter Olam Haba. It's interesting. When we return the Sefer Torah back to the Ark after we read it during public reading on Shabbat, on Mondays and Thursdays, we have a custom of reciting what's called the Eitz Chaim. And at the very end of the Eitz Chaim, we ask Hashem to do what? To return us to the days of old. Eitz Chaim lemachzikim ba v'tochecha me'ushar dechachecha. We have a custom of reciting what's called the Eitz Chaim. And at the very end of the Eitz Chaim, we ask Hashem to do what? To return us to the days of old. Eitz Chaim lemachzikim ba v'tochecha me'ushar dechachecha rachei Noah v'chol divoteha shalom. Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva chadesh yameinu kekedem.
Yeah, dang it, it's like he messed up.
Anyone needs singing lessons, you can reach me at I don't know how to sing at 70facesoftorah.com. Anyway, side note, Chadash Yameinu Kekedem. Renew our days as old, which is taking from Sefer Echa. By the way, the other passages are also borrowed from Mishli, Proverbs 3:18 and Proverbs 3:17. They're not in order, but that's how it's composed. But the last part here is from Lamentations 5:21. Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem. Renew our days as of old. What days of old? Mekedem refers to Gad Eden. Renew our days as the days of Adam HaRishon in the garden. So what we learn from this is that the ideal goal of Geulah, redemption, is not returning to the modern state of Israel, which is under a secular government. That's not Geulah, okay? The ideal goal of Geulah is to experience the presence of Hashem in the Garden of Eden, in Gad Eden. That is actually what Geulah, redemption, is. And so we learned earlier from the Ramban that Shemot is the book of Geulah, and that he argued that when the children of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov return to the madrega, the spiritual level of their fathers, that is when Geulah begins. So we learned that essentially began with the Mishkan. But the Mishkan is nothing more than a microcosm of man. And I've taught this in my other classes, because the whole need to have the physical Mishkan was only in response to the sin of the golden calf. If the golden calf would have never happened, there would have been no need for a physical Mishkan. But we have it with the korbanot, etc., because they are nothing more than a microcosm of man, who in return is a microcosm of the universe. And I've taught about this in many of my other teachings on Parshah Terumah. And so what we have to learn is that true Geulah is when we return to the spiritual level of Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. And so when we return to that level, that is where we experience the presence of Hashem, just as Adam experienced God's presence in Gad Eden. Which means that, yes, Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov also experienced the presence of Hashem just like Adam experienced it. And that means we all can experience the presence of Hashem at that same level, that same dargon madriga, if we strive to create a dwelling place for Hashem in each and every one of our lives, individually and collectively. May we all experience Geulah, redemption, speedily in our days. Other for that, Chavarim, this brings us to a close on my teaching for Parshah Terumah. I hope that you have been blessed and receive phenomenal insight, and this will also empower you and your walk with Hashem in creating a dwelling place for His presence. And once again, if our organization is a blessing to you and your families, prayerfully consider supporting us. You can find a donation link on our website. You can donate there. You can donate via PayPal. And if you would like to send a check or money order in, you can do so at the address that's listed on our website. We greatly appreciate your support and your prayers. And if you have any questions regarding some of the topics you hear me talking about within the Torah portion, feel free to send me an email, rabbi@70facesoftorah.com. I will get to those in the order that they come in. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, may the God of Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov bless you and your families. Shalom and kol Torah.
If you
Okay.
Parshas Mishpatim, there's an incredible pasuk, which really, the pasuk itself is not that incredible. Not that I'm questioning Moshe Rabbeinu or God over here, but the pasuk is a pasuk, Kol almana v'yasa lo yisa'aneh. Do not oppress the almana or the yasa. And from within this pasuk, we see so much depth in the Torah's sensitivity towards man, towards emotions. And when you start to learn through, first of all, the pasuk itself, a special directive. The almana, one who doesn't have a husband, the yasai, one who doesn't have a parent, don't oppress them. A special commandment. That itself is just so beautiful. So we'll call it new age. How we have to be so careful about someone's feelings, etc. But it goes so much deeper. We start looking at the Mefarshim over here. They start explaining what exactly is this special pasuk. So there's an Al-Shach HaKadosh that he really.
All right, so yeah, let's get started from here. But that was interesting. What do you think of the idea that, like, I don't know if he said it explicitly, but it seems like he was implying this idea that the garden, that Adam and Eve in the garden, was actually pre-existing the fall, and I guess correlating the idea of the fall, or like the fall from grace with the with this idea of like the the shattering of the vessels, or the essentially the creation of the world, or maybe not the creation of the world, but like the expulsion of Adam and Eve from the spiritual garden into the physical garden, which is the earth.
I was going to say, I can certainly see how that can work at one level of interpretation.
Maybe it's almost like when they were, I'm sure, this is where, like, where probably, like, inner earth theorists would probably have a field day, but maybe it's almost like they're in the earth's womb. They're in this, like, eternal now, where they feel no separation from their creator, similarly to the idea of like a mother and her child. But when they eat of the fruit, they're essentially they cause the labor contractions to go into effect, and they're expelled into the world, crying and crying with basically completely reliant on this interesting thing, because this whole idea that they have to work the earth for the food, that they're reliant on the earth in the same way that a child's dependent on its mother.
No, I can see what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's the understanding. I'm just saying it's like, I wonder how rabbis would understand this. I'm definitely going to send an email to Rabbi Jacobson, because I don't know what his schedule is like, but I think it'd be interesting, even just for the sake of talking with him and having it like online, even though it's not like probably going to reach many people, but because I have a lot of specific questions, but
yeah, I'm willing to bet that some rabbis are going to agree with you, other ones are going to disagree.
Oh
That's
yeah,
usually how it goes. That's usually how it goes when you talk to rabbis.
well, but the thing is that, like, at the end of the day, I mean, like, there's what they might personally think. Like, at the end of the day, there is no one set tradition, but like, you can ask them about a tradition, about what someone wrote, and even if they don't hold to it, they'll explain it within a rabbinic context. And obviously, I think that it's maybe not necessarily confined to that rabbinic context, but obviously, I don't expect them to go outside of that, just for obvious
Well, they
reasons.
also stick within their own rabbinic context, because I think some of the answers you're going to get from Rabbi Jacobson are going to be different than some of the ones you're going to get from
Yeah, I get that. But what I'm saying,
Rabbi Singer.
yeah, what I'm saying is, if I ask about a specific source, specifically a secondary, like a secondary source, so where they're talking about a primary source, even if that's not what someone agrees with, they're still going to explain what it is, so as not to be misconstrued.
Yeah, sometimes though the way they explain it is they're explaining how it's wrong. That's what I found on some of these things.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
Rabbi Singer does that.
yeah. So, and that's a little point. It's like, explain what it says. Don't slide in your own personal take on it as well.
Or if you do, just explain why you think, and not explain explain why you think it's wrong, not explain that it's wrong.
Exactly.
Let's see. Let's see. What was this? I just really. Okay, yeah. Let's start with this, just so I don't forget. Let's see. Where we at? Right. Barechu et Adonai hamvorach. Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam ba'ed. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה. So before I forget, an altar of earth. That's what I was looking for. Let's see. An altar of earth. Alright, let's see. Let's see. Alright. So this is commenting on Afar min ha'adama. There's a commentary on Tanakh. Make for me an altar of earth and sacrifice on it your burnt offering. Okay, so check this out. So we're about to get into a similar concept as this, but Let me just make sure I'm not getting ahead of myself. All right. Oh yeah, here. So ועשית את המזבח עצי שיטים 5 אמות אורך ו5 אמות רוחב רבוע יהיה המזבח 3 אמות קומתו. Alright. ועשית את המזבח עצי שיטים, and you shall make a mizbeach, an altar, literally a thing for sacrificing upon, so a place of slaughter, trench made by torrent. Interesting. Madbach. Because z and da are connected, but yeah, so it's an altar or a place of slaughter. Interestingly, technically speaking, yeah, I think mizbeach could, in a certain context, also refer to a slaughterhouse, but a slaughterhouse would be more like Beit HaZvachim or something, house of the slaughter, as opposed to the slaughter place. But so you shall make an altar of acacia wood, 5 amot orech ו5 amot rochav. So 5 amot will be both the orech, the length, and the rochav, the width. So we're getting a 5 by 5. Ravua yihiyeh hamizbeach. What's this? Ravua, the mizbeach, the altar shall be quartered, shall be square. Is that what it's saying? Square. Yeah, to be square, to square, be squared, and it's literally from the idea of, oh wow, holy crap! I wonder, does square might actually be derived from quattro, or like a shared root. Let's see. Square etymology. Oh wow, I was right. It's from quadra. Holy crap, so square literally is derived from 4. That's fascinating. It's directly paralleled in the Semitic and in the Indo-European languages.
Well, it makes sense because square has 4 sides, yeah.
Yeah, but like, it's one of those things where it's like we really take our language for granted, you know? Well, not we, but you know what I mean, like a lot of people.
No, definitely. And this is one of those cases where I see it much more of it drawing from a parallel origin of the 4 sides as opposed to any sort of, genetic, one culture copied from the other sort of thing. I think they both drew from a more common source. Okay.
I think what it is, it's the source that they're drawing from is humanity. They're using the languages they're using the words in their languages, but at the end of the day, they're looking at it very human. And of course, there's other ways to look at it. Okay, interesting. So
yeah, they're looking at it. Not, I don't think it is human. I see it as looking at reality. It's like square has 4 sides, so you're basing it off of 4.
Wow. So it's the same with squadron. Squadron is from squadrone, from squadra, or square, square. Wait.
And some of that could come from how they used to have squadrons all laid out in their square formation. Yeah.
Wait, so holy crap. This is wild. I just realized that square, if we don't read it with our English goggles, is square. Square. You see what I'm saying?
No, I don't know what the significance of square would be.
Well, it reveals its Latin roots.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm so fascinated by this stuff. Also, here I'm gonna post a link to join if anyone. Let's see. Here, but so I wonder, what does this mean? Is this because the squadron has more than 4 people, right?
Yeah. No, my guess is they're thinking a squadron as like a group of 25, a 5 by 5 square of people.
Oh, so a square.
Yeah. Or 16 people or 25, that sort of thing.
Well, but think about it. It's interesting because, going back to this, it's 5 by 5. It's 5 squared.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's pulling on the side. Let's see. How many people were in a squadron? Let's see. Squadron number. Let's see. Squadron size 8 to 24. Interesting. So it seems like no matter what, it's going to be. Let's see, 8 to 24. Does it have to? What's the size of one squad? Oh, interesting. So it ranged from 30 to 500 personnel. Oh, okay. So it's probably. Oh, you know what it is? I wonder. Let's see. It probably has to do with the idea of like maybe it's like town squares, like they would assemble in squares or something. I don't know.
Well, I'm going if they marshal themselves into squares.
Oh, that would make sense as well.
The squadron is this square of people, the square of soldiers, the 5 by 5 soldiers.
Yeah. So anyway, and the mizbeach will be square, v'shalosh amot, and 3 cubits will be its height. Oh, shoot! I almost forgot about 420. That is coming up soon. In a few minutes. Give me a moment. All right. Well, maybe read one more and then it'll be time to eat that up. All right. Vesita karnotav. Vesita karnotav. Alarva pinotav. Mimenu tien karnotav. Vitsivita oto nechoshet. And you are to make horn. You are to make its horns upon its 4 corners. Mimenu from it. So like from one piece, I'm guessing. Or from itself are to be karonotav, are to be its horns, vitsifita, its edge, and it's oh no, you're to overlay it with nechoshet, with bronze. Ve'asita sirotav ledashno. Ve'avu mizrekotav umizrekotav umizlegotav umachtotav lechol kelav. And you're to make sirotav. You're to make pots. Pots, but I guess it says pails. Yeah, you're to make pots or pots, temple pots. Apparently, it could also be thorn, hook, or briar. Okay, that's fascinating. I wonder, potentially, it could be referring to that as well. Maybe it's like ritual. I don't know. Probably, I'm guessing pots though. And you're to make its pots. Lidashno for dashan for sweeping away ashes of the altar. Vayav, and its shovel, Zerak, and it Marak is from Mizrak, really? It's bull, like was this bull? It's bulls? Yeah, it's bulls, and Mizlagotav, and its 3-pronged forks, a sacrificial implement. Umachtotav, machat, and fire holder, censer, fire pan. Lechol kelav, and all its vessels, taseh nechoshet, will be made of bronze. And on that note, we're going to go back to let's see. Horned altar. Oh God, there's not going to be like just a lot of bit of crazy. Sorry, a lot of bit of fundamentalist. You know what? Here, let's just watch this.
Its psychological depth anywhere else in the Hebrew Bible, the way.
Moreover, thou shalt make the tabernacle with 10 curtains of fine twined linen, and blue, and purple, and scarlet, with cherubims of cunning work shalt thou make them. The length of one curtain shall be 28 cubits, and the breadth of one curtain 4 cubits, and every one of the curtains shall have one measure. The 5 curtains shall be coupled together one to another, and other 5 curtains shall be coupled one to another. And thou shalt make loops of blue upon the edge of the one curtain, from the selvage in the coupling. And likewise shalt thou make in the uttermost edge of another curtain, in the coupling of the second. 50 loops shalt thou make in the one curtain, and 50 loops shalt thou make in the edge of the curtain that is in the coupling of the second, that the loops may take hold one of another. And thou shalt make 50 taches of gold, and couple the curtains together with the taches, and it shall be one tabernacle. And thou shalt make curtains of goat's hair, to be a covering upon the tabernacle. 11 curtains shalt thou make. The length of one curtain shall be 30 cubits, and the breadth of one curtain 4 cubits. And the 11 curtains shall be all of one measure. And thou shalt couple 5 curtains all of one curtain. One curtain shall be 30 cubits, and the breadth of one curtain 4 cubits. And the 11 curtains shall be all of one measure.
So I'm having a hard time finding an association with a 30, but notice this. So there's 11 curtains, so that's the 10 sphirot plus the extra one, which so interesting. Rabbi Jacobson was saying that the extra one was keter, not dot, which I've always learned the extra as being dot rather than keter, but that's interesting. I do want to ask him more about that in the future. But what was this? But you have the 11, which is connected to the Sephirah. You have the I think the dimensions were 30. He says something about 30 by 4, and the 4 you could connect with the 4 worlds. There was something else I picked up on, but I forget what it was. But there's definitely a lot of symbology that's hidden in the numbers. And again, on some level, you could just draw it out because there's going to be connections within whatever tradition. You know, every tradition has its association with numbers, but it doesn't mean that it's not significant. Just that, you know, it's probably that I wouldn't go as far as to say that the dimensions came from the meaning, but rather the meaning from the dimensions.
There's definitely a relationship between the two. You know, that's one of the things that I've never have gotten too much into gematria, primarily because so much of it is it's a you know, you're trying to figure out things. I find it much better to let it reveal itself after the fact. Right?
One more. All right. Let's see.
Sure. And thou shalt couple 5 curtains by themselves, and 6 curtains by themselves, and shalt double the 6th curtain in the forefront of the tabernacle. And thou shalt make 50 loops on the edge of the one curtain that is outmost in the coupling, and 50 loops in the edge of the curtain which coupleth the second. And thou shalt make 50 taches of brass, and put the taches into the loops, and couple the tent together, that it may be one. And the remnant that remaineth of the curtains of the tent, the half curtain that remaineth, shall hang over the backside of the tabernacle, and a cubit on the one side, and a cubit on the other side of that which remaineth.
Interesting. And you know why I think they had that? Most likely to let the smoke escape.
Well, I was thinking that's how they get in too.
No, because they get in through the flaps at the front.
Okay.
But another thing you get with this is that it lets some ventilation in, but it's still enough of a hot box that the smoke's going to stay trapped. But it's also going to ascend, so people are going to be able to see it.
Definitely.
In the length of the curtains of the tent. It shall hang over the sides of the tabernacle on this side and on that side, to cover it. And thou shalt make a covering for the tent of ram skins dyed red, and a covering above of badgers' skins. And thou shalt make boards for the tabernacle of shittim wood, standing up. 10 cubits shall be the length of a board, and a cubit and a half shall be the breadth of one board. 2 tenons shall there be in one board, set in order one against another. Thus shalt thou make for all the boards of the tabernacle. And thou shalt make the boards for the tabernacle, 20 boards on the south side southward. And thou shalt make 40 sockets of silver under the 20 boards, 2 sockets under one board for his 2 tenons, and 2 sockets under another board for his 2 tenons. And for the second side of the tabernacle on the north side there shall be 20 boards, and there 40 sockets of silver, 2 sockets under one board, and 2 sockets under another board. And for the sides of the tabernacle west
is that a lot of people who, and it is more so going to be from, like European Christians than, and again, not to overgeneralize, but like more so the ones who were like going around claiming that their tradition was superior, which again was not all of them. I wonder, like, if any of them had this superiority complex, like, oh, look at these, indigenous Americans. They're doing these, what is it? The, what are they called? The smoke lodges. And like, I'm sure you probably had some of the Europeans making fun of them, like, oh, look at them. They think they're getting something out of it. They think they're communing with spirits, oh, that's so dumb. Meanwhile, they believe in a tradition that has the very same concept, except it gets limited to the shaman and not to, it doesn't get, but I think it's a very good case to be made that probably there was a time where there was a more democratic, and again, democratic being having to do with people of status, which again goes into a whole issue of like what democracy means and, democracy for who and by who. But basically that really, if you go back before the establishment of all these different rules and laws, people were sharing traditions. And so like, yeah, you might have someone who is undertaking things as a pioneer, but at the end of the day, if something was shown to be good, unless it was like, I mean, obviously you do have some substances that were only really ever traditionally used by a tribe shaman, regardless of where this is. But the question is, was it ever seen that was all of them? And again, you could also just view it that maybe the thing that was limited was the access to, or not even limited, but it wasn't. See, this is the thing. There's a I think part of what it could be is like maybe there was a time where everyone just kind of like everyone just understood that this place was like the shaman's place, and no one went in. And it wasn't like this manipulative thing that the shaman was I don't know. I feel like the more abstracted a lot of these concepts get, and the more people like, it's one thing. I guess what I'm saying is, it's one thing if you know someone's having a direct experience with something, and again, that's the whole idea of what was going on in the time of Moses and everything. Like that, the idea is that they knew that he was actually like getting information from somewhere. But the question is, you know, where do the where do those lines blur? Like where who was there ever a time where? Well, think about it, because Moses was the one going into the tabernacle. I mean, like, yeah, you have the priests as well, but the fact that you have, think about this: Moses is not a priest; he's just a Levite, and he's going into the Holy of Holies. Well, what's that say?
Yeah, no, I was going to sit there and say this, but you're hitting on some of what I was saying about Moses being the messenger, almost an angel sort of character there, rather than entirely human. The other one I was noting is you sounded very similar to Joseph Smith with the Native Americans, where they, they're following their practices that they have as because they were part of the lost tribes of Israel.
No, it's because they're human. Because well, also, I mean, the funny thing is that, people. Well, so the question is, I wonder if he ever came up with a theory as to why there was smoking in the Americas and not in the old world, and why they had to bring it to the old world, why they had to bring the concept of smoke, like, direct inhalation. Because think about that. That's kind of interesting. Like, is that the result of like like, I can't even imagine what he thought.
I agree.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, similarly with the construction of language, a lot of it's just very human. Like, if you realize that, hey, I mean, okay, here, let's walk through this. You smell something that not only does it smell nice when it burns, it makes you feel good. I mean, it changes the way you think. Now, this smoke that you're inhaling, it's precious. You don't want to waste any of it because it dissipates very fast. I also wonder if that, I'm going to be honest, like, this is totally just, stream of consciousness. I wonder if any of this has anything to do with the story of Cain and Abel, like the idea of, like,
don't bogart my joint or I'll kill you.
No, not that. Like, almost that the sacrifice of Abel was the burning of a plant. The only thing that messes with my theory is that Abel was the shepherd, not the farmer. But the idea that, like, you essentially you're killing. Well, but see, here's the thing. So the idea of, like, hevel, that vain, like, it's fleeting. It's almost like, by the time you've already smoked a plant that, like, whether it's tobacco, whether it's cannabis, whether it's even something like opium, or, I mean, so I've never smoked opium. Not interested in that. But the other two, well, actually, no, never. Well, technically, I have smoked tobacco like once, and I hated it. Almost threw up. But anyway, so yeah. But the point is, so cannabis, which I'm familiar with, and I already lost what I was thinking of. Oh, okay, so yeah. Basically, you have this plant, basically a drug, a dried plant. That's what drug means, and I think it's Old Dutch. But it's already dead. But, like, in a sense, it's kind of it's it's still going to basically, for the sake of, like, even though you have a plant that is already dead, it can still be green if you keep it fresh. It's in the same way that just because a fruit is off the tree, it doesn't mean that it's rotting already. Like, it might be, in the same way that we're all, the moment we're born, we're dying. And the same. So this is actually interesting. If you think about it, fruits are like, well, if you think about this in, like, a plant analogy, really the moment that something is still connected to the tree, it's not alive. It's still being born. It's still being grown. It's still being born. The moment you pick it, that's when its life really starts. That's when it enters into the world. That's when it is on this given. Not that it would live forever, because it still would be according to the seasons if you were to just leave it there. But it's like you basically you take it out of its environment. This idea that our souls are supposed to be somewhere else, but then they got trapped within body, or not that they're supposed to be somewhere else, but they want to be somewhere else. And so it's almost like this idea that the moment you pick something, it starts rotting, but at the same time, you need to pick it in order to use it. Like for your own, again, I'm not saying that it's only good if we use it, but it's almost this idea of the transformation of it requires its entering into the world in the same way that the idea of the transformation of souls requires, this entering this crucible of hardship and materiality.
No, makes sense. I can see where you get that.
Yeah. Just a diatribe. I think that would be the proper word, but I'm also really tired, so I'm not sure. But yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of really interesting analogies that get drawn between humans and plants, humans and animals as well. But the problem with both of those analogies is that they can be dehumanizing in a sense when, it's all about how they're used. And I guess that's just the case with all analogy.
Well, by exploring those analogies, you get to explore what it means to be human, because you're talking about what's the similarities and also what the differences are. Okay.
Yeah, I guess just inherently diving into rhetoric, you always open it up for people to abuse it. Let's see.
Use and abuse.
Word, thou shalt make
Yep.
6 boards, and 2 boards shalt thou make for the corners of the tabernacle in the 2 sides. And they shall be coupled together beneath, and they shall be coupled together above the head of it unto one ring. Thus shall it be for them both. They shall be for the 2 corners. And they shall be 8
this is what we were
boards,
talking about before.
and their sockets of silver 16 shall it be for them both. They shall be unto one other beneath, and they shall be coupled together above the head of it unto one ring. Thus shall it be coupled together above the head of it, coupled together of the tabernacle in the 2 sides. And they shall be coupled together beneath, and they shall be coupled together above the head of it unto one ring. Thus shall it be for them both. They shall be for the 2 corners. And they shall be 8 boards, and their sockets of silver 16 sockets, 2 sockets under one board, and 2 sockets under another board. And thou shalt make bars of shittim wood, 5 for the boards on the one side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the boards on the other side of the tabernacle, and 5 bars for the boards of the side of the tabernacle for the 2 sides westward. And the middle bar in the midst of the boards shall reach from end to end.
That's wild. You see what it's implying? Holy crap. Do you realize what this is implying? This is pretty amazing. The tabernacle. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, what are you saying? Go ahead.
The tabernacle is a mega ark of the covenant.
Yeah, no, that's one of those things that you notice the various different scalings. It's the same sort of concept, only scaled larger and larger until you get up to the temple.
And thou shalt
large.
Interesting.
Overlay the boards with gold, and make their rings of gold for places for the bars, and thou shalt overlay the bars with gold. And thou shalt rear up the tabernacle according to the fashion thereof which was showed thee in the mount. And thou shalt make a veil of blue, and purple, and scarlet, and fine twined linen of cunning work, with cherubims shall it be made. And thou
Ooh, no, that's maybe a bit scandalous. I think some people might have an issue with these cherubim. They're a bit too Egyptian. I mean, I like them. I have no issue with them. I want to clarify that, but I do think there's people who would be like, "Oh, those look kind of human." Then again, I guess there's always going to be someone who has an issue with everything, so can't please them all.
thou shalt hang it upon the 4 pillars of shittim wood, overlaid.
I'm sorry, but I can't get over the fact that people who don't speak Hebrew keep saying shittim wood. You know, I've got a really bad stomach ache. You know, I'm going to leave some shittim logs in the. I'm sorry, that's graphic. But no, shittim. Honestly, like, part of it I'm saying is because I know how to say it in Hebrew. And the other part, which is honestly more than anything, is that I don't like I don't know. There's certain words that sound really cringy when you say it. Shittim wood is one of them. And so I will say shittim.
With gold. Their hooks shall be of gold, upon the 4 sockets of silver. And thou shalt hang up the veil under the taches, that thou mayest bring in thither within the veil the ark of the testimony. And the veil shall divide unto you between the holy place and the most holy. And thou shalt put the mercy seat upon the ark of the testimony in the most holy place. And thou shalt set the table without the veil, and the candlestick over against the table on the side of the tabernacle, towards the south. And thou shalt put the table on the north side. And thou shalt make an hanging for the door of the tent, of blue and purple and scarlet, and fine twined linen, wrought with needlework. And thou shalt make the door of the table on the north side. And thou shalt make an hanging for the door of the tent, of blue and purple and scarlet, and fine twined linen, wrought with needlework. And thou shalt make for the hangings 5 pillars of shittim wood, and overlay them with gold. And their hooks shall be of gold. And thou shalt cast 5 sockets of brass for them.
That was actually a really good visualization. I enjoyed that.
I was going to say, you say shittim, he says shittim.
You say shittim, I say shittim. Wait, you say shittim, I say shittim. Oh, holy crap. Oh, and we were just talking about Timnah last night. We've got to watch this.
As we've been looking at the story of Ezra and Nehemiah,
Not this.
the pattern of our ancient immigration back to the land.
Oh, God. I'm sorry, but so. Oh, God.
I've seen him on a bunch of stuff recently.
Yeah, no, it wasn't that. I was just. It reminded me of. So my great aunt. I mean, I kind of. Part of his. I mean, if you're right, you found my channel, she probably has some issues with me, which, I mean, for context, to Hemp Billy, I actually think that the God of the Bible and this idea of other gods that are mentioned in the Bible, I think that, the God of the Bible is just like the God of them as well, and they're basically the angels. Anyway, this is all theoretical because I don't think she will, but the point is that I don't know, oh my God, I don't even know how to say this, but no, she, there's one time when she reposted something about, from the book of, I think it was either Ezra or Nehemiah, but something about rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem and talking about how that's like, that shows God endorses that, we build a wall on the border with Mexico and make, I mean, this was all during the Trump era, but it's just one of those things where it's like, honestly, I don't know. I mean, on one hand, I disagree with it politically, but on the other hand, it just also doesn't even make sense. I mean, like, unless I guess if you're a Reaganite and you look at America as a shining city on a hill, then its borders would be the border of a city, and therefore a wall of a city would be the wall of the country. I mean, like, I guess there's ways you could, but
it's no different than putting a fence around your house.
no, but see, here's the thing: there never was a border fence around on the border with Mexico. I mean, in fact, you know, a big chunk of America used to be, big chunk of the U.S. used to be part of Mexico. But notwithstanding, you still have the fact that there never was a historical wall there. I mean, you have outposts, sure, but the idea of rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem, it's of restoring that which. So, like, really, I think more than anything, that's how you had people associating this idea of restoring the glory of the old days and then combining it with this idea of building a wall. But really, it's not building a wall and restoring glory. It's actually rebuilding a wall and restoring glory, because it's this idea of restoring the old, not of building something that never was. Again, not that there's any issue with that, but it's one of those things.
No, I agree with you. There again, all people come up with all sorts of false reasons to legitimize their actions. To me, it's a matter of you're building the wall in order to protect yourself. And is that a legitimate reason or not? If people find it a legitimate reason, then they can understand why somebody would build the wall. If they don't think people should be allowed to protect themselves, then they don't find the wall acceptable. That's kind of how I see it. I break it down simply.
Honestly, I just think it's stupid, because, like, if you break it down,
stupid isn't any sort of rebuttal or response.
Well, no, but no. I'll explain why I think it's stupid. Because to look at the amount of investiture that something like a border wall that actually would stop people would require, relative to the fact that most people, and again, I mean, if you want to talk about immigration, that's another thing. The Bible actually endorses immigration. The Bible's the story of immigration. But that withstanding, I think that it's just kind of laughable that most people who illegally migrate or are in the United States actually overstay their visas, or they overstay, basically they don't illegally cross. They get in legally and they stay. And again, that's not to justify people who do, because if you're in a country, you should follow the laws of the land. Well, given there are countries that have completely unjust and crazy laws, but what I'm trying to say is that to put up a wall to protect the country is kind of like, I mean, I don't even know. It's like putting up a fence to stop people from going in your front yard. If they really want to go in your front yard, they're going to go in your front yard. It doesn't matter if you have a tiny little fence up.
So what you're saying is, instead of putting up a wall, somebody should get a machine gun to take those people out as soon as they step out to your Ariel, that you're basically saying is, if I have a bunch of orange trees in my front yard, I should just expect other people to come and take all my oranges.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying
I'm just saying it doesn't sound like you're leaving an alternative there. How is a person supposed to protect themselves? Because my way of looking at the wall is, it's a matter of which is going to cost you more. Is it going to cost more to put up the wall, or is more harm being done to your country by not having the wall? And that's why walls first got started. Is it was more beneficial to have the wall than it was to not have the wall.
For cities, not for entire nations.
Why not for a whole nation? It's not like this isn't with significant historical precedents. You got Hadrian's Wall, you got the Antonine Wall in England, you got, again, the Great Wall of China, which has been built in various stages over millennia. It's like I don't know what option you give people to protect themselves if you're saying they're not allowed to build a wall and they're not allowed to harm the people who are hurting them. What other option is there?
Okay, I don't know how harm came into it. I'm just look, but all I'm saying
that's the point of the wall. If harm comes into it as soon as you talk about building the wall. If you don't recognize that, then you don't understand the purpose of building the wall.
Yeah, but the wall can also cause harm.
Yeah, it's going to. The question is, which way is the less harm? Is it less harm to have the wall and what harm that causes? Or is it less harm to not have the wall and the harm that causes?
Okay, so say you have orange trees and people are taking it. What you should do, because at the end of the day, think how much is it going to cost to put up a wall? It's actually pretty expensive. Like that's one of the things a lot of people don't take into account.
It all depends how much I don't want them on my property taking my oranges. If I can justify that price, I should be allowed to.
But you're missing the point. It's not about can you or should you, but like what works best. What you could do is you could put up a sign that says, prosecutors will be violated. This is private property. You could put up a camera, and I can guarantee you that's going to cost you exponentially less than putting up a wall. And guess what? You can actually take legal action with that.
And I'm still out my oranges, and I'm sitting there and having to spend money for the legal action. And I'm having to hire a lawyer or keep a lawyer on retainer in order
you could just call the police on them. My point is,
my oranges are still gone. I'm still kicking the can. You're saying I'm not allowed to. Once again, you're basically saying I am not allowed to protect myself. Well, what am I allowed to do to actually protect myself? What can I? Because I'm saying if I build the wall and they can't physically get on my property, I have protected myself.
Okay, you're missing my point. There isn't a wall that you can reasonably build for a decent price that's going to actually what the wall I'm talking about is whether it's a fence, whether it's a wall. Okay, first of all, what type of wall let's say you just live in a neighborhood. I have a very specific thing in mind. I'm talking about the type of fence or wall that that someone could, if they wanted to, climb over, but realistically will deter somewhat. The point is
if it's something, here's the thing, if it's something they could climb over, it's already a deterrent. Any sort of additional barrier to just a free walk on the property is a deterrent. It's going to deter a certain percentage, just like you're putting up the sign as a deterrent.
I know. What I'm explaining, though, is that I feel like you're missing the point. My issue with the wall isn't explicitly that I think it's racist. I mean, there's people who think that. I think that it's impractical because it focuses the attention on people who are illegally entering the country rather than people who are illegally staying in the country, which is a vast majority. But the other thing is that you're wasting a lot of money because the thing is, say someone takes your oranges.
Whoa!
Wait! Hold on.
You said I'm gonna throw a flag on that wasting money. Because if I'm
no, let me explain it. You don't know what I'm saying until I explain it. It's wasting money. It's wasting money because there's even small walls, just a feet, 10 feet, that can cost you upwards of $100,000. The thing is, I actually saw a video on this, where someone they bought a place and they bought it for a tree. It was I think it was a mango tree or whatever. But the thing is that basically there was an issue with it, and it was this is what it was. It was causing damage to their wall, and so they had to basically redo the wall. They had to move where the wall was, and just to do that, this isn't building an entirely new wall. This is just moving part of it. It was something like $100,000. And he basically, I might be off with the money, but the point is he basically had to make the decision, are these mangoes that, they're going to grow over May, versus, if I were to plant a new one, how long it would take versus, to just, I forget exactly what the calculation was, but what I'm trying to explain is if you can do something as simple as put up a sign, put up a camera, someone does it, you call the cops on them, and people in your neighborhood know, don't fuck with this person's trees, and you don't even have to put up a sign. That's the idea that for instance, good security, you don't need to have barbed wire and fences everywhere. For instance,
I understand what you're saying. I don't know what your actual point is, because everything you're saying it boils down to is you're basically saying that you don't want this other person to follow a course of action that you don't like, but they have every right to do. And you have your reasons why they shouldn't follow it, but they don't care. They have the reasons why they should. And at the end of the day, you're basically saying they shouldn't get to do it because I don't want them to do it, and I don't think
That's
they
not
should.
what I'm saying. I
But then
personally,
what are you saying that's the alternative? Because what I'm saying is that every person has a right to self-defense, and that includes a country. And if the country if they have a right to a bound border, they have a right to say who comes over that border. And you're basically saying that the country doesn't have that right. Like I don't have the right to
I'm
lock
not
my
saying
door and
that,
prevent people from raiding my
Graham. I am
refrigerator
not
anytime
saying
they
that.
want.
I
I'm
have never
asking you.
said that.
That's what I'm saying. I'm giving you. This is communication loop. I'm giving you the feedback that I'm extracting from what you're saying, and I'm asking if you're saying something else. What is it that you're
I'm
saying?
trying to explain that, but you're not giving me the chance. What I'm saying is it's a waste of money relative to what that money can be. You could use that money to get the same effect
Which
and
is
more, but doing
that's
something.
your preference. That's a waste of money based off of your preference structure. And that's the problem, is to throw a waste of money. That's an emotional reaction. That's not an economic concept. It's only
But
a waste of
no,
money.
it is
Let me,
economic.
I need to get this out. From an economic standpoint, something is only a waste of money if you can achieve the same goal for less money. If you're not achieving exactly the
That's
same goal for
exactly
less
what I'm
money,
saying. That is exactly what I'm
but the
saying.
problem is, Ariel, you're missing the point that what you're describing is not the same outcome.
No.
Putting up that sign is not the same outcome as putting up a wall.
That's a hypothetical. I'm not talking about that in real life. But like no, the truth is the amount of money that would have been needed to build an entire wall that would actually keep people out on the southern border, not to mention that that's just one border and a lot of people also come from Canada. But the truth is that money could be better used in national, in actually protecting borders, but in other ways. The truth is though that the thing is, people who are still thinking in walls in the 21st century are at least a century behind.
And my point is, I see no reason why some sort of wall should not be part of a solution. Just like border gates are part of
Graham,
a solution.
there's a very good reason.
I don't see why it shouldn't be part of it. I'm saying anything that addresses the problem should be used.
But
I don't understand your a priori ruling things out, and the reasons you're giving they don't make any sense to me, Ariel.
yeah, Graham, look how long the border wall is. Like, yeah, you have the wall in China, but that was done.
Let's say the border wall's 10 feet. You're arguing specifics as opposed to I'm arguing general principle.
But
you're arguing trees, I'm arguing forest.
But I'm telling you, based on what you were saying before, the same effect with less money can be achieved by doing something different. I'm telling you,
it's not the same effect. That sign is not the same effect. Instead of the border wall, let's look at a fence around my orange trees.
Graham, you're ignoring what I'm saying. I said ignore the sign. That was just an example. It's just
okay.
An
then let's focus on my orange trees. What can I do? What I want to protect my property and my orange trees. I don't want the people on my orange trees. I don't want them coming into my house and raiding my refrigerator.
Okay.
I can put up a wall and that'll keep out, say, 90% of them. It's not going to keep out all of them, but it's going to keep out 90%. Now, I can lock my door and that'll probably keep out another 90%. So we're down to only one person coming in and raiding my refrigerator if I can have a wall and lock my door. And I get at least probably about 90% of the oranges that I was getting before. I see that as a huge win for me building a wall.
Graham,
Tag, what's your option?
I feel like you're way too stuck on the orange analogy.
I'm stuck here, Ariel. I'm going to stake my flag. I'm stuck on self-defense and the right of self-defense.
Okay, you want something more practical than putting up a wall around your property? Put up barbed wire around the tree. Make it impractical for someone who doesn't have like a special access to it. So
put a barbed wire around the whole property then. Hey, that works for me. You're arguing a different type of wall.
no, because if the issue is just the orange tree, why would you put up a barbed wire around your entire property?
Because it's an issue of defending my property. It's an issue of self-defense. It's because I want to be able to walk out of my door and go over to my orange tree all on my property without going through barbed wire. If people want to get from the outside, want to get to my orange tree, why shouldn't they go through barbed wire? This is about boundaries and, this is about boundaries and boundary enforcement and boundary protection. And it's a matter of, I see people have a right to self-defense of their boundaries.
Okay, but when you're dealing with an entire country, you have to get at least half the country or more to agree with it. Otherwise, you can't say that it's being
You're presupposing democracy there, and democracy is inherently tyranny of the majority, and that is something I agree 100% with the founders, is a toxic recipe. I believe in a representative republic like the founders.
Look, all I'm saying is I don't think that it's a matter of you shouldn't be able to protect a border. It's just that, here, let's see.
And that's my point is what you're doing is you're saying, yes, you can protect yourself, but you can't do it this way.
Well, I mean, that would be, okay. Like, I mean, you can technically defend yourself with a rubber chicken with cement poured into it, but it's not the most practical way.
Right, which is why when you were starting to rule out the fence, I went to automatic weapons, because that's a much more effective means. I wasn't going to rubber chicken filled with cement. I was going to a different effective means, and that's the situation similar to what a lot of the people in the world complain about Israel, that Israel shouldn't have a right to self-defense. And that's what I'm saying is it's a matter of every entity has a right to self-defense, or else it's not an entity. It's basically prey to be cut up and sponged off of and consumed.
Look, I don't get why you have such an issue with me saying that I think it's ridiculous that about the border wall. I'm not saying that that's just my opinion.
It's because I understand that, and it's because I don't see. I see that as an emotional reaction. I see that as dismissive of what another person wants to do. And I don't understand why you're basically being dismissive and demeaning of other people from over a difference of opinion. You're not simply expressing a difference of opinion. You're not saying, well, that's not what I would do. You're basically saying they shouldn't do that. You're saying they're wrong to do that. And that's where I'm throwing the flag here, not your difference of opinion, the additional emotional rejection of it.
But the thing is, this isn't based on anything to do with border security. This is just just getting this from the Bible that basically it's just messianic glory language of rebuilding the ramparts, and that there is a function to that. But again, it's talking about rebuilding something that's been destroyed. It's not talking about building something new. And what I'm saying is that you're trying to not you, but that with that example, people are trying to basically infuse national security policy with religion, and they're taking it out of context. But beyond that, it's
yeah, and I sat there and I agreed with you back when we started. They are bogusly doing that, and again, it's no different than the preachers who were defending slavery using the Bible back in the day, or segregation using the Bible.
Yeah,
they use religion on that one, but I'm dealing with it separate from their wrong-headed use of religion to justify it, saying, let's throw that out, and why is it inherently wrong to do it? And again, when I add up the numbers economically, I can see where it can make a lot of sense to at least have some sort of border there, some sort of deterrent. And that's all I'm saying is the throwing and you're presenting it in a way that I don't see where a person has a right to self-defense under what you're describing. You're saying they do, but you're basically saying you have the right to self-defense, but you can't actually defend yourself because you're ruling out all the ways in which a person could.
Graham, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying this is the equivalent of saying, yes, you can, like, I'm not going to stop you from burning your own money to keep yourself warm, but it's like, I am going to say it's stupid, and I think that someone who has an issue with me saying that's stupid to burn money to keep yourself warm, like, in a very literal sense, like putting, again, it's one thing.
Okay,
if,
how about this one?
wait, hold on. It's another thing if the currency's been devalued and you have no other way of keeping warm. Situational, but say that say things are just like they are now, and all of a sudden, rather than paying for heating, you decide you're going to take cash and you're going to burn it in your furnace to keep yourself warm.
Yeah, and that's that person's right as long as it's their cash. And here's the point is, listen to what I'm saying. I can sit there and say it's stupid for somebody outside to spend their time and effort criticizing what somebody else is doing with their money. They're better off doing basically anything but criticizing what another person is doing with their money. Tag.
How's that any different than, I mean, couldn't you just say it's the same waste of time you spending criticizing what I'm saying? Because how is that fundamentally different than someone spending their money? Someone spending their money, they're actually, like, they're taking an action versus someone just talking. Like, why is an
talking's taking an action?
Okay, but why is one deserving of criticism and the other isn't?
Well, on one level, they're not. But my point is, you're criticizing that person who's defending themselves. And you're
I'm criticizing the way.
Yeah.
And I have that right. And there's nothing. Like,
yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, but by doing that, it's opportunity cost, Ariel. If I'm sitting here complaining about something, I'm doing that instead of anything else. I could be, if I'm complaining for an hour, I could be doing something, working a job and getting an hour of pay. I could be watching an hour of a movie. You know, it's the opportunity cost of doing that. And yeah, you have the right to do it. You have the right to waste your time criticizing other people spending their money, just like they have the right to waste their money doing whatever they want. It's still people wasting their time, effort, money, whatever, you know, either way. And everybody has the right to do it. Yeah, I'm an economist. That's just how it works.
What I'm saying is, how is what you're doing fundamentally any different than what I'm doing?
I'm not sitting here and I'm not emotionally judging you as stupid. I'm sitting there and saying, is every bit that much of judgment? I'm defending your right to do it, and I'm defending that guy's right to spend his money. You're in the playing field criticizing that guy's right and his decision to do that.
No, not their right. See that you're putting words.
I switched it to decision. You're criticizing his decision. Why criticize other people's decision that don't impact you or hurt other people?
Because I mean, it's not.
I know you can, just like he can burn the money. I'm sitting there and throwing the same question you're throwing at him. How is that productive?
There's a difference between productive versus negative. If you're burning your own money or
How is it not negative? How is what you're doing not negative? You're throwing so much negative energy in the air criticizing him.
I mean, so like it's relevant to what we're talking about.
And again, it is relevant because I'm seeing it as a question of boundaries and a right for a person to defend their boundaries. And their right to have effective means to defend their boundaries. And
okay, but what I'm saying is, I feel like you're putting all this emotion in when I'm just criticizing the idea that we should build a wall because it says it somewhere in the Bible. Like,
and I've already agreed that was a bogus reason to do it. If
yeah,
all
but
we
you're
need,
saying I'm putting negative energy in there. How am I doing that?
By sitting there and saying that there's something wrong with somebody building a wall to protect their property.
I didn't say that. I said I didn't think it was the most practical means of doing it.
Okay, so you're saying they're within their rights and perfectly fine, and it's
Yes,
not
I never.
something
That's why I thought that's why I was so confused, Graham. I like honestly, you like in my view, you were sounding.
I'm used to. Usually, it boils down to either there should be a wall or there shouldn't be a wall, flat out. It's not a question of, well, yeah, you can build the wall, and if if people think that's the right thing to do, that's the right call. That's rarely the position people take on this. I mistook where you were at, Ariel. My bad.
But I mean, notice people only started, and again, it's another thing if people thought that already, but a lot of people only started getting into it because of the populism behind it, because it became a chant, because, it was like, it was part of being part of a group. But
that's that neurotypical lemmings to the sea herd instinct sort of thing.
But yeah, no, I mean, like at the end of the day, it's one of those things where, like, I mean, I personally have issues with how like potentially racially tinged it got in some cases, but at the end of the day, it's one of those things where if you're going to build a wall with Mexico, like, look at the statistics, see how many people are coming over illegally from Mexico versus Canada, and if that's the case,
well, it's not just people, it's the amount of damage being done, because you don't have a lot of violent drug gangs coming back and forth across the border in Canada. And that has to fall into a different concern for one border over the other. It's not a one size fits all kind of thing.
Well, but even then, there's a lot of harm that's being done legally, like whether through drug companies or even like stuff that's completely legal, but that's allowed to be imported. So it's one of those things where it's like, once you start analyzing it, you kind of have to analyze everything. And if you're looking at it that way, like, I mean,
which is exactly how I was trained to do it in my economics. Yeah, I understand that.
This is where I was
said, and I have told Donald that Mexico will never pay for that wall, and now I have to repeat it to this guy, Sean Spicer, which is going exactly the same line. He again repeated this morning that Mexico is going to pay. They better understand that we are not paying for that wall, that U.S. taxpayers will pay for that wall, and it is a wall that is a waste. It serves no purpose on the objectives that are set for that.
So why isn't a wall acceptable?
It's stupid. It doesn't work. There is already a wall. It's at least covering 70% of the borderline. A wall, big wall. The remaining 30% is desert, is places that there's no people there. Why is he going to waste taxpayers' money in this stupid wall? It's just a waste of money.
So yeah, I mean, he didn't really go into why. He just said that it is, but
yeah, he's exactly my problem with propagandists. He has his point, and his defense of his point is the alternative is stupid and a waste of money.
I love a song.
Here, so check this out. So this is what ended up happening.
Fly straight east out of Nogales, Arizona, and you'll pass miles of rolling border wall built during the President George W. Bush era. Then it reveals a construction zone frozen in time. Steel border wall bollards are left in stacks, and construction equipment sits on staging grounds. Just weeks before President Biden was inaugurated, the Trump administration pushed ahead to build a 4-mile stretch of new border wall into the Patagonia Mountains. This is the end of the road, about 15 miles east of Nogales, Arizona. This is as far as the border wall construction got. And what you see now is this carved out path sitting next to the pristine, untouched landscape.
So this trench, I mean, this is the footer where they hope to put these bollards. 8 to 10 foot deep trench.
And they literally stopped in mid-trench. Lakin Jordal has spent years campaigning against the border wall in these remote areas of Arizona.
It's kind of a bizarre scene because we've got this huge amount of devastation, this massive swath of land that's been blasted open, and nobody knows what's going to happen next.
We revisited a number of the border wall construction sites we've reported on in the last year, and this is what we found. Dozens of sites along the border have turned from bustling construction zones to ghost-like scenes.
There will not be another foot of wall constructed on my administration.
Vowing not to build another mile of wall, President Biden stopped construction after taking office. About 200 miles of border wall that was being constructed now sit in limbo, and funding is approved for about another 75 miles. The Biden administration says it's reviewing the construction projects.
I'm taking you to the border fence. It's up the road here.
Sheriff Joe Frank Martinez in Del Rio, Texas, takes us to what's supposed to be a 2-mile stretch of border wall.
This is border wall that was started at the end of the Trump administration?
Yes. This structure that you see here and that structure there.
It's replacing an old iron fence a few hundred yards away from the Rio Grande.
I just think it's foolish to leave this project just as it is.
Construction equipment is still on site. Deep trenches are dug out. The sheriff might describe this little section of Trump wall as overkill, but he doesn't want to see it abandoned.
This isn't even what I was referring to. Because
there
a lot
are
of
also environmental
oh,
concerns.
actually, here, look at this.
At the end of the Trump era, crews were blasting into the Guadalupe Canyon in southeast Arizona.
When the Biden administration took over, construction stopped. But before leaving, construction crews used the remnants of old steel border barriers to block access to the new wall. Just a few months ago, all you could hear out here was the sounds of heavy machinery, construction crews, and explosive detonations blasting into the mountains. Now, it is eerily quiet.
Lakin Jordal says he wants to see construction money diverted to restoring the wilderness.
It is enraging. Frankly, I'm so tired of watching these beautiful landscapes pay the price of politics, of really poor decision making.
For anti-border wall activists, the damage is done. And the question becomes, how do you repair a mountain landscape that now looks like this?
And Brianna, this fight is far from over. The federal government now needs to negotiate the cancellation of these contracts. And it's not all of the border wall contracts. There are still others that are being funded through other means than the pools of money that the Trump administration was dipping into to pay for the expansion of that border wall construction. And in recent weeks, there have been notices that have gone out to landowners in Texas from the federal government saying that the land was going to be taken over for border wall construction. So this is.
Let's see if I can see.
I was going to say, hopefully
Yeah.
we can find common ground that the option of wall, no wall are both superior to half-baked, half-assed, half-built wall.
Yeah, but let's see if I can.
And the other one is when he's talking about what immediately popped in my mind when he showed that mountainside was remembering the Great Wall of China. And what popped into my head is, what are you going to do about that? Well, I was going to say in 100 years or so, maybe get it declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
All right, let's see if I can find. All right, here.
Wow, this is new.
Yeah, switch to H&R Block. Doing my own taxes like a champ. You can connect live with real experts. I mean, last year we used TurboTax, and compared to H&R Block, they are so...
Do your own taxes and get help from an H&R Block Tax Pro.
When Americans turned on their TVs in the early 1990s, one contentious issue was hard to miss: immigration.
Is immigration good for America?
The federal government won't stop them at the border.
You spend $5.5 billion a year to support them.
There's a right way and there's a wrong way.
At the time, there were around 5 million undocumented immigrants in the U.S. And most Americans saw immigrants as a burden on the country, taking jobs, housing, and healthcare, and thought immigration as a whole should be decreased.
Our country is invaded by immigrants who are like cancer cells.
That same year, Republicans ran on a tough on immigration platform and took control of Congress. Democrats were pushed to adopt tough positions on immigration, too.
We are a nation of immigrants.
but we are also a nation of laws.
In 1996, President Bill Clinton signed a major piece of legislation, the Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigrant Responsibility Act, or IRA-IRA. Its goal was to decrease the number of undocumented immigrants. It did the opposite. Before the 1990s, undocumented immigration into the U.S. looked very different. For one, it was usually temporary.
People used to go back and forth across the border. They would go north and, for the harvest, and they would earn some money, and they would go back to Mexico.
And if they wanted to come live permanently in the U.S., there were a few legal channels, but not many. If they married an American citizen, they could get lawful status. Or if maybe their brother was a citizen already, he could sponsor them. Or an employer could. And these could be done after they were already living in the U.S. undocumented. Before 1996, the threat of deportation was relatively low. People were commonly deported for committing a crime, and it was mostly limited to major crimes like murder or trafficking. But IRA-IRA, together with other 1996 laws, drastically expanded deportable crimes to even minor infractions like shoplifting. It was also retroactive. So say it's 1976 and someone is caught stealing some albums from the mall. They wouldn't be deported. Over the next 20 years, they never commit another crime. But after 1996, they could be deported because of that old misdemeanor. And not just if they were currently undocumented. This applied to immigrants with lawful status too. And previously, an immigration judge could decide if the deportation should even take place. Now things were a little more automatic.
Ignoring the fact that those deportations would be extremely harmful to U.S. citizen children or to spouses.
Deportations skyrocketed, and IRA-IRA created the framework for future laws that further expanded reasons people could be deported, especially after 9/11. But IRA-IRA also made another huge fundamental change in the U.S. immigration system.
One of the aspects of the 1996 law that is particularly strict and I think in many respects inhumane is the so-called 3 and 10-year bars.
Those 3 and 10-year bars made these legal pathways nearly impossible to obtain. They work like this. Anyone who's been undocumented in the U.S. for 6 months and wants to gain legal status first has to leave the country and be barred from returning for 3 years. If they've been undocumented for more than a year, they're barred for 10 years. So if they want to get lawful status through a job, they first have to leave the U.S. for 10 years. Or through their brother, leave for 10 years. Or through their spouse, leave for 10 years.
It's family separation by another name. The bars were intended to try to essentially create punishments that were so severe to deter people essentially from coming here. But as we've seen with many other deterrence-based policies,
the people that were coming and going are now staying.
Instead, it incentivized people to stay in the U.S. undocumented. Before IRA-IRA, Mexican immigrants who came to the U.S. unlawfully were about 50% likely to return to Mexico within a year.
Now they're twice.
But after 1996, more people started staying in the U.S. There were around 5 million undocumented immigrants living at the U.S. before IRA-IRA. Today, it's at least double that.
That's why I was saying
we
twice.
are somehow surprised by this outcome. This is of our own doing.
Laws like IRA-IRA shaped the way the U.S. focuses on immigration enforcement as a deterrent. But really, it proved that stronger enforcement doesn't actually stop undocumented immigration.
These laws or the politics of the 90s didn't really change the reasons why people come to the United States.
Today, views on immigrants are very different than they were in the 1990s. Most Americans now see them as a strength, not a burden. But the laws created here haven't changed.
Requirements and standards that were created decades ago that aren't responsive to our needs as a nation, they certainly aren't responsive to the needs of immigrant population.
The idea that if we only had more guns, if we only built a higher wall, that we'd solve all the problems. I think we learned from 96 that's not the way it works. It's not that simple.
It's about using soft power, not hard power. And again, it's not that you don't have the right to use hard power. It's just that hard power is good for stopping a violent threat that's coming at you. But if you're trying to deal with something that's not necessarily like a threat so much, or if there's the unknown, then there's that potential threat. then something like that, you have to then the best ways are to find a way of channeling and filtering that. And I think probably the most feasible way would be to find a way to re-incentivize legal immigration, basically to be more beneficial than illegal, it's one of those things where it's like you can see the side effects of laws and also like economics. So, like you were saying. So I mean, my issue isn't fundamentally with a wall. It's more so the reason for why a wall is being proposed above other things. And again, it's like, but the main thing that I was actually talking about is that a majority of illegal immigrants in the United States are actually they actually overstay visas.
And again, there's some significant things that got left off in that video. One of them is Clinton. That was a second wave of basically amnesty for, dealing with the immigration issue. Reagan had a wave of amnesty back in the 1980s that exploded illegal immigration back then. This is a recurring bungling of the government to deal with the issue. And, that's the other one that they left off there is what had changed since Clinton's law went into effect. I'm sure that's an explosion in the immigration lawyer market. The number of lawyers and the amount of money that gets spent on lawyers and the legal system on immigration is probably 10 to 100-fold now what it was when that law went into effect with Clinton. And to me, that's always a major negative for the country when the money getting spent on lawyers goes up, because once again, it's opportunity cost. That money can't be spent on something productive. And I feel this all boils down to the root cause is lack of personal responsibility. Those, people shouldn't be coming across as illegal aliens, illegal immigrants. You shouldn't be breaking the law. To do that is a lack of personal responsibility. To sit there and overstay, all of these problems are based on the lack of personal responsibility. Going to get off my soapbox now,
Yeah.
Ariel. Tag.
It's kind of interesting. You made me think of something. What does it mean to break the law? It means to be in violation of the law. But think about it. It's actually two different things to be in violation of the law and to violate the law. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's the thing is a law is supposed to be protected in the use of the citizens, and that's where it becomes with immigration is those people, they aren't citizens. So that's why you come into an interesting dilemma there, Tag.
Well, no, I think you're missing my point. So everyday citizens can be in violation of laws, but they can't break laws. The ones who break laws are politicians and legislators. They're the ones who violate law in order to justify things that are, you see what I mean? This idea of breaking, of making law broken, as opposed to breaking the law. Because at the end of the day, when you, if you break a law in the way that most people say that, so if you violate the law, or if you're in violation of the law, rather, you're not actually breaking the law. The law stays the same. You see what I'm saying? To break the law is to change it.
I was going to say, here you can pull full circle to some of what you were talking about earlier, where the law, in the spirit of the law, it is inherently broken to turn it into the letter of the law, sort of in the same way of the shattering of the vesicles.
The vesicles?
Yeah, the light.
Wait. Wait, do you say vessels or vesicles? Sorry,
I said vesicles. It was a slip of the tongue.
Oh, okay. Let's see. What was I looking for? All right.
Although vesicle isn't entirely inappropriate, but yeah.
Right. Ironic. We never even got to the video. I just.
Then and in modern Israel today, I'm reminded.
But yeah, I mean, it's like one of those things where it's like the only reason I even brought it up was just it's one of those things where it's like, okay, imagine the case of say the walls of Jerusalem were destroyed and someone's like, we need to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, and it says here, it's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. again, it's one of those things where it's like, even separate from that, it's like, if it contextually makes sense, then I don't think there's an issue. But if you're just bringing something up from theology, like, it's kind of one of those things like mixing religion and state. And it's like that could be your personal justification as to why you think it's a good thing, but that shouldn't be the reasoning why it's done.
Well, there you're looking at people using rhetorical technique. You know, it's all's fair when it comes to rhetoric.
All's fair in love and rhetoric, or rhetoric and war.
Our travels in the Israeli Negev desert. And today, we're visiting the Timna Park. It is one of the largest attractions in the south. What a beautiful valley. Have you ever seen anything like this before? It is full of amazing history from the time of King Solomon to the Egyptian pharaohs. Today, we will see incredible formations. This is really cool. It's so unique. Visit the ancient copper mines. Their mining shaft, see it's covered with sand. Climb Solomon's pillars.
Ooh, they should uncover them.
What did it say?
And as the best part, we're going to visit a life-size replica of the tabernacle, a tent that God instructed Moses to build in order to have a transportable sanctuary during the exodus from Egypt to the promised land of Israel. All this and much more in today's episode of Sergey and Rhoda in Israel. Are you excited?
Yeah.
Timna Park is located just about 20 miles north of the city of Eilat. And it is easily accessible from the main road.
Trees are probably
Oh, look at the colors of these mountains and how massive they are.
The Timna Park is very large, so it's recommended to have a car to explore it. Our first stop is to check out a very uncommon stone formation called the Mushroom.
Oh,
the Mushroom is an unusual formation.
That's what
it is made of the red sandstone, a very soft rock. And so over centuries, the wind, humidity, and water erosion formed this mushroom-shaped formation. Wow, this is really cool. Yeah. So unique. What a beautiful valley. Have you ever seen anything like this before?
No. Beautiful.
We had no idea what this park is going to look like. But now that we're here, the first impression is, wow. In the vicinity of this formation, archaeologists found ancient copper ore mining sites. This site served as one of the most important archaeological windows into the history of copper mining and production. So these are vertical mining shafts. Right now it's covered with sand, but it goes deeper in there. There are chisel marks that would use copper chisels to get copper out of here. This is one of the oldest copper mines in the world. And when copper gets in contact with air, it starts oxidizing and it goes green. So it's so easy to spot copper here. Look, you see this rock here? It's all green on the sides. And if you walk, you see green patches. And that's where you know you can start mining for copper. That's why we see those vertical shafts of copper mines. So cool. These are the ancient copper mines. Let's go take a look. Whoa.
Babe, these are ladders.
No way.
Look.
Wow. This looks like there would be steps and you can just scroll up.
Oh, you cannot scroll up. I'm sorry, babe. You cannot.
I definitely can.
You can, but you won't.
So this park has been through much controversy over its name and its dating. When Nelson Gluck first excavated this place in the 1930s, he claimed that the date of the site goes back to the King Solomon, and that brought a lot of attention to this location. Ironically, 30 years after Nelson's discoveries, additional excavation projects took place, and they dated the site to 300 years before King Solomon was even born. This place does not belong to King Solomon. It goes way back, way earlier. But just recently, in 2008, renewed archaeological excavations found something really cool. They performed high-precision radiocarbon dating on organic samples at the site, and it showed that the site does date back to the time of King Solomon. So we go from the 30s, hey, this is the King Solomon site, to the 60s, no, it's not, to today, yes, King Solomon was here. In these copper mines, a significant amount of ancient artwork can be seen in plain sight. So up there on that mountain are the drawings from 12th to 14th century BC.
They're fighting.
Wow.
Animals.
12th to 14th is before Solomon.
Bow and arrow, sorry. So what I'm touching here are actually replicas, but the real ones are here on the walls in its original form.
What are you saying?
I said 12th to 14th centuries pre-Solomon.
Well, no, what I'm saying is that they're saying that they found remnants from his time as well, even though they dated it to a certain time.
I was going to say it dated. Part of the point is to me it's important that it dated pre-Solomon. It's not like they were Solomon's mines rebuilt them or anything. They were already existing. It's like the pyramids. Pyramids were already existing when Solomon reigned too, or is said to have reigned, however you want to say it. Okay.
True.
Now, whether Solomon was actually in those mines, like you said, it's a different story.
But I mean, the idea is, well, also whether Solomon was real or whether, I mean, it's one of those things like, it's not was Solomon real, but more so who was Solomon?
Yeah, because he could be real just like Spider-Man is real.
Yeah, I saw Spider-Man last week. I'm joking, I actually didn't. But you could say that if you did see the movie last week.
Oh, exactly. Like when I go to Disney and I see Mickey, it's like, hey, there was Mickey. I could have gotten his signature.
Oh, fun fact. I actually learned this in my class last week. But do you know that? Have you ever seen the mascot for ASU?
Is that the Sun Devil?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't looked at it in a while.
So let's see, Sparky images. Here. So do you know who Sparky was modeled after?
No.
Take a guess. Some Christians even today think that this person is the devil, or basically.
What pops in my head is Simon Legree, but I don't think that's it. Who?
Wait, who's that?
Old villain from like movies and stuff. Character.
All right. Who do fundamentalists hate right now? It's a company.
He looks kind of like Wizzo, but
It rhymes with whiz, or the first part does. Oh yeah, it rhymes with.
You're saying Walt Disney?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, apparently, was it the designer? Oh, here. Let's see. Oh, just watch this actually.
It's a great pleasure to be at Arizona State University, the home of Sparky the Sun Devil.
First, there were the Tempe Normal School Normals, then the Owls, the Arizona State Teachers College Bulldogs, and finally, on November 20th, 1946, the student body voted to change the mascot to the Sun Devil. The rest, as they say, is history. The first Sun Devil was student Dick Jacobs, an ex-Marine.
They had a tryout, said I want to participate in the tryouts. So it came my turn. I walked up the steps, about 8 or 10 steps, turned around, put my hands on the steps and walked down the steps on my hands. And I stood up and I dove over the top of the railing to the dirt track below. And I got up, that was the end of the thing. You're it.
After working through several designs, Sparky the Sun Devil debuted in 1951. Like all top mascots, Sparky has transitioned over the years. Uniforms have changed. Masks have gone from pointy ears to fiberglass to soft foam.
I'm Pat Cotton. I did all of the sewing for the ASU cheerleaders and Sparky for quite a few years. My sewing room was a little closet in this little teeny house. I just put an ad in the state press, and the first week I earned $50 and thought I was really rich.
While each transition has ever so slightly altered his look, he's never veered too far from the original focus of Sparky the Sun Devil, though there has been the odd hiccup.
He was out doing his thing on the field and hit the ground, flopped right on the ground. 3 times that happened before they finally realized that there were no holes in the head for him so he could breathe.
As ASU has evolved over the years, so too has Sparky. But a symbolic figure in Sun Devil athletics history, he's known across the nation as the tough and energetic mascot from the Valley of the Sun. In the same way as Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, and Goofy are to Disney, Sparky is and always will be the face of
Are they
Arizona
seriously
State
going to miss an
University
opportunity
and
to
Sun
show?
Devil Athletics.
How on earth? They really missed an opportunity to. Dang it. Wait, let's see. ASU, Sparky, Disney. Here.
The mascot of Arizona State, Sparky, debuted in the 40s after being designed by Burke Anthony, and it is rumored that he based Sparky's facial features on his former boss, Walt Disney. Looking at it side by side, the resemblance is very clear. So in a sense, Walt Disney is the devil of Arizona State. Find out how every Power 5 college got their nickname and mascot below.
Let's see, where were we? Here.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. So Disney is the devil. What'd you know?
From its original time. It's really unbelievable.
These are the hunting ibexes. They depict hunting ibexes and ostriches with lasso and boomerang. The hunters are native of the Negev Mountains, and they worked here in Timna in the copper mines back at that time. Incredible. It blows my mind to think that the work of someone's hands left a 3,000-year-old trace. And it just reminds me that what I do today and what I say today can leave an eternal impact for the good or for the bad. Next, we're driving to the most impressive formation in this park. It's called the Solomon Pillars.
Right now, it is a time of war in Israel. Many of our family members.
There they are.
Wow. So these are natural sandstone structures, and they were formed throughout centuries by water corrosion.
Wow, they're so massive. Look at them. They're incredible. Wow.
These pillars were named Solomon Pillars by Nelson 𤤕𤓅𝐿, who performed the initial excavations in the 1930s in this area. I can't hold it much longer. So it's a pretty recent name.
You just saved the whole pillar from falling. Thank you for your service.
Climbing lesson number 2. Don't go running up the cliff. It will exhaust you.
So while Sergio's running around in the mountains, I've decided to check out this ancient Egyptian temple at the bottom of the cliff. According to excavations, this used to be a shrine of Hathor, an Egyptian goddess of mining, and then in later period, it became a shrine for the Midianites.
The archaeologists found here a large number of beautifully decorated pottery and metal jewelry. These were most likely gifts brought by the Midianites for the shrine. However, one of the most significant finds was a copper snake with gilded head. It is strikingly similar to the copper serpent described in the Book of Numbers. The evidence for Midianite culture found here in this site is of extraordinary importance. You see, in Exodus 18, the Bible says that Moses went with Jethro, a high priest of Midian. That means that there had been a Midian presence here. And this site not only proves that, but also paints a better picture of the Midian culture and their activity in this region.
There you are. What was it there? So?
It's like you run up and there's so much excitement and it's so much fun and you're running and you're full of energy, like this is easy. Then you get to the top, then your lungs get caught up and they get like, oh, what did you think? What were you thinking running up there? You're not trained for this. Oh. For our last and final stop today, we are heading to a very unique attraction. When I read the book of Exodus, I always imagined that because of millions of Israelites going through the desert, that the tabernacle would have been very, very large. It would have been giant. So the priests would be able to perform their Levitical duties. This tent is actually built according to the exact size given by God himself to Moses, as it is written in the book of Exodus. The size in the Bible is given in ancient biblical cubit measurement, and most scholars agree that it should be around 75 feet wide and 150 feet.
It almost seems to indicate maybe it wasn't as large as they said, but that there's like some mysticism associated with the number of people that were supposed to be there.
Long. And now that we're here and I'm seeing the life-size tabernacle, I can't believe my eyes. The tabernacle is not as giant as I always pictured it. It's actually more of a size of an Olympic pool.
I thought it would be bigger because the people were a lot, but one of the workers reminded me how much they have to carry, so that makes sense.
If you think about it, it makes perfect sense. Of course, they needed to take it down, carry it in the desert, and put it back up. It just wouldn't make sense to build something the size of a Herod's second temple and then keep on taking it down and putting it back up while in the desert.
I've just never given it proper thought. And I'm so glad that I can see it now. So the next time I read the text in Exodus account, I'm properly able to imagine how it looked like. So the visual always gives that benefit. And I'm so glad I was able to see this. It's awesome.
Walking into this tent, seeing the artifacts, touching them, it does help me understand of the physical specifications that God instructed the Israelites to build, but it doesn't explain why. Why is the veil there? Why was it blue, purple, and scarlet? Why did God instruct to have bread on the table at all times? Why were there 2 cherubim on the ark? God gave so many meticulous details, and they all have very important purpose and great symbolism. In Exodus chapter 40, God instructed Moses the exact order in which this tabernacle should be set up every time they take it down and move it to a new place. And the order was pretty simple. After the Ark of the Covenant and the veil was in place, they were to put the table of showbread, then the menorah, then the screen door to the tent. And here's what's striking. In the book of John, Jesus proclaimed himself in the exact same order that matches these elements. I am the bread of life. I am the light of the world. I am the door. It's an incredible match, but it doesn't stop here. There are 7 I am proclamations, and they all follow the exact same pattern as the tabernacle setup. And the thing is, Jesus did not say these things in one.
Which, I mean, it's interesting, but
as the tabernacle
doesn't prove anything. It just proves that, well, the only thing it proves is that the writers of the New Testament had read the Old. You know what I mean?
Oh, exactly. No, it proves that they were pretty good writers. That's what it proves.
Yeah. I mean, they really were. See, this is the thing. One of these days, I do, maybe next year after we read through all of the Torah, I do want to read the New Testament in Greek, and then what I want to do is I want to try to translate it into Hebrew, because I know there are some Hebrew version. Honestly, maybe read the Hebrew version, see how accurate it is. But what I want to do is, without looking at it in any sense of a Christian context, just read it as it is. And obviously, it was edited later by Christians, so it's going to be impossible to completely, dissociate from that. But I do think it's worth a try because, I mean, there's so much there that's just waiting to be unpacked, but so many people don't. I'm not saying like, oh, I'm going to unpack it properly, but it's just, I feel like a lot of people don't unpack it in that dimension, except for, very niche part of scholarship as well as the internet. And it's one of those things where it's kind of like that's kind of where I'm going to stake my claim, because it's the stuff that I'm really good at doing. But no, I mean, I'm not exclusively limiting it to what I'm interested in the New Testament. Obviously, I'm actually less interested in the New Testament than the Old Testament, or rather it's even, I don't even know why I'm using those terms. Basically, Greek versus Hebrew Bible, but Christian versus Hebrew Bible.
I was going to sit there and say, so you're saying you have issues with the Septuagint?
Well, it's interesting. There's a lot of context in the Septuagint.
You wouldn't be the first Jew to have problems with it. That wouldn't be, yeah.
Honestly, my issues with the Septuagint, it's just my issues with the Septuagint are different but similar to my issues with the Masoretic text. Like, I think it's limiting it. If you read it in the original Hebrew, that would also be something to. Though I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to be able to do it back to back. Like, 1 year we read it with. Also, I don't know how I would get my hands on a version that doesn't have any spaces. I'd probably have to just I'd probably have to custom edit that, or just copy the text from all of one chapter and then just manually remove all the spaces and then translate it like that. That would be wild. That's wild. I'm not doing that. That's too far. But anyway, so yeah.
The other one I was gonna say is I do agree with the guy that all those instructions that they're giving for building the tabernacle, they all have purpose, and that anybody who claims to understand exactly what all those purposes is somebody who's probably trying to pull your leg tag.
Wait, you're telling me God's trying to pull my leg?
No, I said anybody who's saying that they understand what all the meaning behind those instructions are.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. What about God?
Well, if God's telling you that one, believe God. I'm talking about people.
Well, no, but what are people? People are persons. What is a person? A person is a entity. So technically,
well, yeah. I'm saying believe the burning bush. Don't believe that the hairy hominid.
No, but the funny thing is, you said if someone tells you that, they're pulling your leg, and so the joke is, so God's telling you that, but is he pulling your leg? And the joke is that yes, in a lot of cases, God does pull your leg. And actually, he did in the case of Jacob and the angel, the fight with the angel.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, he pulled his leg. Yep.
Oh, that's amazing. I love when moments like that present themselves.
Knuckle setup.
Okay, so let's see. So, showbread, bread of life, menorah, light, screen door, altar, shepherd. I'm sorry, but a good shepherd, like a good shepherd for who? For the people buying the meat or for the sheep? But I guess I can see the connection. Okay, laver, the resurrection. If you view the idea of resurrection as being connected to baptism or the idea of mikvah, but that's a stretch. Screen to the courtyard gate, the way, the courtyard way, and the priest and the vine. I do not see this last one. It's a stretch, but
And the thing,
I definitely think you could see it with some of them.
is Jesus did not say these things in one sentence. Between each I am, there was days, months. And when John wrote them down, it's also in the same verse. It's spread out through chapters. And so this order was there, but as far as we know, nobody's ever found it before. This is very recent. This was found just a couple of years ago. So this means this pattern couldn't have been contrived. And it means that it could have not been there by chance.
Yeah, it wasn't there by chance. The writers put it there intentionally.
You're saying like they picked each and every letter that they wrote down?
No. The idea that, well, yes, literally, but also, but the idea that, it's like, okay, let's wait to say another I am, and when we say the next I am, it's going to match the pattern. Oh, it's going to be so cool.
So if you're interested to know more about the tabernacle, its significance, and the symbolism, you should watch this study by Charlie Garrett. The link is in the description of this video below.
I have heard that this place has a crafts corner where you can fill out a bottle of colorful sand and take it back home with you. Okay, got it. There we go. So when you come to Timna Park, you get a little bottle, so you could do your own sand art and get colorful sands to layer. It's so cool. That's what we're gonna do now. What do you want to do with them?
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't have like.
Ooh, now yellow.
Now yellow?
Yeah.
I think you have to hold them in like an angle.
The funny thing is the sand is not from Timna. It's probably just they get it from the factory. It's like,
yeah, no, that's what I was thinking. That looked like art sand. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, just come on, go over to the ground, fill it up with the dirt.
I don't especially love crafts, maybe some things, but this thing with the sand, it's pretty cool. I like doing that. Okay, that's enough crafts for today. There you go. Not bad. Looks like a Jamaican flag. That's awesome. It's your turn.
If you enjoyed this episode and you like this type of nature, check out our other videos about this region and this area, also the Dead Sea, a lot, and many, many more. And also subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you'll be notified when we release a new video.
Also, comment below and tell us what you think of this one.
All right, let's
head out.
Let's head out.
Let's head out.
One thing that jumped out to me at the design of the tabernacle,
yeah,
it has a lot of look of like a mousetrap. That you have the opening at one end, and then at the other end you put the you put the Ark of the Covenant, and it's sort of like, this is a Yahweh trap. Let's put the Ark of the Covenant there, and let's try to get him in the other one and snap those curtains shut and trap Yahweh.
All right, let's
head out.
Let's head out.
Let's head out.
Let's see. So, okay. Going back here. Okay.
That's not entirely unfair take on the sentiment behind the tabernacle. It definitely is a place where Yahweh is kept.
Let's see. So, Ve'asita lo mi'chvar ma'aser reshet nechoshet ve'asita la reshet arba Havod nechoshet al arba ketzotav, and you'll make for it michvar kever. Is it kvar? Hold on, it's not. Wasn't it? All right, here. and you were to make for it a grating or a lattice work. So like you're to make for it a grate, Maaseh Reshet, a work of net, I think. Wait, like, why is it not? Wait, sorry, it's being finicky. A work of, Reshet, like a work of net, a netting made of a netting worked of bronze or nechoshet. No, nechoshet would be copper. Wait, would it? No, it would be bronze. Wait, copper or bronze? I guess it could mean either. Vasita, and you'll make al hareshet, make a, or like, and you'll make or place. No, you'll make or upon the net arba tavot, 4 rings, nechoshet, bronze, al arba kitzotav, over the 4 ends or corners. I think it's implying that it'll go over the horns of the altar, maybe, or I might be wrong on that. Let's see. Wait, V'natahu tatachat karkov hamizbeach milmata v'haita hareshet ad chetzi hamizbeach. And you were to give or to put it below the karkov, the edge or the rim. Interesting. I wonder if people draw any connection between this and like Kharkiv or Kharkov. You know what I'm talking about in like Ukraine? Kharkov, or no, it's also in Russia. Or wait, no. I think there's a Kharkiv in Ukraine and a Kharkov in Russia.
Could be. I've heard the name before. I have no idea if people make the connection.
Let's see. Kharkov. Oh, Kharkiv. It is Ukraine. All right, so let's see. Second largest city in Ukraine. The name, history of Kharkiv.
Of course, I was going to say, as soon as you're talking there, you're talking about possible connections to the Khazars when you're talking Ukraine as well.
Yeah, but I doubt there actually is a connection. Okay, let's see. Cultures. Let's see. Kharkov name. Named after a river. Let's see. Kharkiv River. Kharkiv meaning. Maybe etymology. Wait. Oh, right here. Kharkiv, etymology from Ukrainian Kharkiv, from Old Ruthenian Kharkov, compare Russian Kharkov. Wait, here's it. Kharkov, whence English Kharkov. The city is named after the Kharkiv River. Folk etymology says the city and river named after a Cossack named Kharkol, and from Kharkol, from Greek Kariton, but there is no hard evidence supporting this. Interesting. I mean, the thing is, that's a folk etymology. It's not like they have a folk etymology saying, oh, it's from Hebrew. But it is interesting nonetheless. I might ask, I might ask someone I know who his family's from Ukraine. But, below the edge or the rim. Oh, holy crap. Holy crap. I don't know why I didn't see this before. I think there might be a connection. You know why that is?
Why?
Do you know what the meaning of Ukraine is?
No.
Okay, check this out. Borrowed from Polish Ukraina or Russian Ukraina, from Old East Slavic Ukraina, which is most commonly taken to have meant borderland marches in this context. Though for about a century now, Ukrainian scholars have articulated an alternative theory that it meant region, country, the land around a given center in this context instead. In other words, the edge. And that's what, holy crap, I'm going to bring this up. This is so fascinating. This might actually, if it wasn't for you, I don't think I actually would have looked into this and think I would have just been like, oh yeah, it's like, oh, it's the same word, but yeah, literally Kharkov.
Well, another thing interesting is the history of the city, because I was looking at that, it's been inhabited since 2000 BC. So you're talking this, 4,000 years of inhabitation, and they're talking about it being like the last of the Scythians and the Sarmatians were there towards the end.
Wow. This is fascinating. So, below the Kharkov, the ledge, it says, of the altar, milmata, below, below, so that the net is until half of the altar, halfway up. Vesita badim la mizbeach badei atzei shitim vetzipita otam nechoshet. And you're to make badim, poles for the mizbeach, for the altar. Badei, it's atzei shitim, poles of acacia wood. Vetzipita, and you're to overlay them with bronze. Vehuva et badayav vetavaot vehayu habadim al shtei tzalot hamizbeach misetoto. And vehuba, and going in to it, and its poles going into the rings will the poles will be upon two tzalot, upon two sides of the mizbeach, of the altar, Beset oto, they will be placed in it. Or no, that they will be carried, lifted. That they may be lifted. Nevuv luchot taseoto kasher hera otecha be'arken yasu. Navav, to hollow out. So hollow, hollow luchot. It says hollow of planks. Hollow luchot. Hollow boards. Interesting. I'm used to seeing like luchot everywhere. Hollow the boards. Let's see. Is this hollow boards? You will hollow the boards, so that as you wait, hollow of planks are you to make it? You're to make the plank. You're to make the boards hollow. As he has allowed you to see him, to see you, allowed you to see on the mount there you're to make, thus are they to make it. It's interesting. I'm not sure. ועשתה את החצר המשכן לפת נגב תמנה כליים לחצר שש מושסר מהבמה אורך לפיה האחת. And make a chatzar, the courtyard, or the court of the tabernacle, courtyard of the tabernacle, lifat, facing the Negev, facing Negev south, or facing the Negev border. It says to the south. Kelaim, kala, hanging, draping. For the, or like hanging down for the courtyard, shesh, what's this, twisted or woven hemp, mea, 100 in cubits length, facing the same, or the length of one face. ועמודיו 20 ואדניהם 20 נחושת ועמודים וחשוקיהם כסף. And its columns were 20. And their sockets were 20. And their sockets of bronze were 20. And their hooks, of the amudim, and the chashukehem, of the columns, and their fillets or binders, rings, and their like binding rings were silver. So it says with its columns 20, their sockets 20 of bronze, the hooks of the columns and their binders of silver. וכן לפת צפון באורך כליים מהאורך ועמודיו 20 ואדניהם 20 נחושת והעמודים וחשוקיהם כסף. And thus to the border of the north, or to the northern side, in its length, kelaim, hanging me'a orech, hanging 100. Wait, but orech kelaim, in the length, in the hanging's length, 100 orech. It says hangings 100 cubits in length. Orech ve'amudav, and the length of its pillars, esrim, were 20. Wait. Okay, it says lengthwise. So and thus on the northern border lengthwise. Ba'orech. According to length. Kla'im me'a orech. And the hangings 100 in length. Ve'amudav, and its pillars and were 20, and its sockets were 20 of bronze. Vave, and its hooks were the hooks of the columns. V'chashukem, and its binders were silver. Is this the same thing? Or no, it just says, now it says it with, I wonder if there's any commentary as to why it's repeating. Right? That's like the same thing, right? I just translated the same thing twice.
It seems like I get lost in this sometimes myself,
Right.
Mario.
Let's see. And likewise on the northern side, the word, okay, let's see.
Yeah, it sounds like they're going to tell you to do it on every side.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. 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 Let's see. Ve'rochav hechatzer lifat yam kelaim 50 ama amudehem 10 ve'adnehem 10. And the width of the courtyard, of the seaside or the west side, the kelaim 50 were 50 cubits. Amudehem Asherah, there were 10, the length 10 of pillars, and of their sockets were 10. So the width of the courtyard on the hangings of the 50 cubits with its columns. So it's not saying, so this isn't talking about their width, it's just the number of them in the second part, but the first part is talking about the width of the courtyard on sea border, which is the west. I think that's what it's saying.
Yeah, the west is the sea.
Yeah, but the only thing is, depending on where they are, it could also be south. So I wonder what it means if it has. Surely it's got to be west, but it's one of those things where it makes sense if it says Yama, but it says Lifat Yam. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, not really anything on it. So whatever. All right. Ve'rochav hechatzer lifat kedma mizracha 50 ama. And the width of the courtyard facing the east, or facing Kedem, or was it eastward from where the sun rises, was 50 cubits. Was that the same as before? So chamishim, yeah, correct. So it's both. So it's got to be the same for the east and the west. Interesting that this doesn't translate. The other one doesn't translate as west. Maybe it's because it doesn't have ma'arav. It just says what was the word? It was what was the word it used for west? It was yam, right? Ve'chamesh esre המקלעים לכתף, עמודיהם שלושה ואדניהם שלושה. And 15 cubits are the curtains or the hangings, like the hangings for the lakatef, for the shoulders, amudeham, for shoulders of the pillars. For the shoulder piece, I guess it says, and their pillars, shloshav, 30, and or sorry, not 33, and their sockets 3. ולהכתף השנית 15 כלאים עמודיהם 3 ואדניהם 3. And for the shoulder piece, for the second shoulder piece, 15 kalaim, like hanging pieces, amudeham, and their pillars or their columns, 3 vadneham, and their sockets are 3. ולשער החצר מסך 20 אמה, תכלת וארגמן ותולת שני, 6 מוש זהר, מעשה רוקם, עמודיהם 4 ואדניהם 4. And for the gate of the courtyard, masach, will be mesach. What's this? What's the root of this? Let's see. Dang. Covering rag screen. Oh, so like the curtain, like the entrance. So and for the gate of the courtyard, the covering will be esrim, will be 20 cubits. Tochelet v'argaman v'tolachani. So that's what's the word? Like blue, sky blue or sea blue, like cerulean. Would that? No, it'd be whatever, just blue and purple and scarlet worm, or and crimson, crimson. Yeah, let's just say crimson and crimson. And hemp, twisted or like braided hemp. Maseh rokem. That is the work of embroiderers or variegators, color mixers. Amudehem arba'a, their pillars, or their pillars, columns are 4. The adnehem arba'a, and their sockets are 4. And that's probably also a reference. I wonder if anyone draws an allusion to the tradition of the 4 worlds, because that could almost be seen as like an allusion to this idea of the 4 pillars upon which reality is existing.
I was going to say, I'm sure somebody's made that connection before, but I don't know who off the top of my head.
Yeah, I don't know either. Can't find anything here. Anyway, we're almost done. Kol amudei chatzer saviv mechushakim kesef vaveihem kesef ve'adneihem nechoshet. All the pillars of the courtyard surround, or are all around, are mechushakim, are chashak, are all attached to with kasef vaveyam, with silver, and hooks, and their hooks, and silver and their sockets. And their attachments, or they're attached with silver, and their hooks are silver, and their hooks of silver, and the silver of and their sockets are bronze. Sorry, I'm starting to fade, so that's right. Orech 𐤕𤓅𝐅𝐿 v'hama ורוחב 50 ב-50 וקומה 5 אמות 6 מוסר ואדניהם נחושת. And the length of the courtyard is 100 in cubits, and its width is 50 50 200 wait 50 ב-50 50 and 50 50 by 50. Okay, interesting. Yeah, literally 50 by 50 or 50 and 50. The koma 5, and the height of the will be 5 amot 5 cubits. 6 musar will be 6 musar will be the height will be 5 cubits of twisted hemp amot. 5 amot of twisted linen, and their sockets will be bronze. Lechol kele hamishkan bechol avodato vechol yededotav vechol yetidot echatzer and for all the vessels of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle, and in all its work, and all its service, and it's all its yatadetav, and it's all in all its stakes or its pegs, and all yitdod, and all that is staked. This is for all its service of construction, and all its pins, and all the pins. And all the pins of the hechatzer of the courtyard are bronze, or of bronze. Interesting. So something I did want to just go back to, and we'll finish up real quickly. But this idea of making a sacrificial altar, it goes back to, I think I pulled it up here. Is it? Yeah, here. Mizbeach adama ta'aseli, an altar of earth you are to make for me. V'zavachta, and you will sacrifice alav upon it. Et olotecha, you'll sacrifice your burnt offerings. Ve'et shlomecha, and your peace offerings. Et seoncha, you'll sacrifice your flock. Ve'et bakarecha, and your cattle. V'chol hamakom asher azkir, and in all the place, and in every place, asher azkir, that I give permission, or I allow my name, etchmi, my name to be recited. Avo elecha uverachtiach. I will come upon them and I will bless them. So, do you have any thoughts on this?
Not a whole lot on that. One thought that occurs to me is how do they move this around in the desert? Because it's not like, the Ark of the Covenant, you can understand a few people carrying. This one, I'm not sure. How did they carry it? Did they disassemble it and then reassemble it? Because I can see that working.
Wait, what was the question again?
Well, this is the tabernacle they were constructing in the desert. And it's obviously they're going to be, it's going to be portable. I'm curious how they ported it, because looking at how it's built there, it's not like you can pick it up with a few guys like you can the Ark of the Covenant. And I was just curious how they supposedly transported it. Did they disassemble it and then reassemble it then at a place when there was need of ceremonies?
Oh, wait. So I got most. Yeah, I got most of it. Do they assemble and disassemble and reassemble? What was it you wanted to know?
The tabernacle here, everything that they're building, because it's not carrying it in one piece just isn't logistically feasible.
Yeah, I guess the implication, though I think I might remember, though I might be wrong, there might be a tradition around like the Holy Spirit allowing it to be like that they were able to lift it without any issue because of the power of the Holy Spirit.
But I was going to say, going the other way, it would make sense that this is basically the assembly and disassembly instructions on it as well. That's why they're in such detail.
Yeah.
Again, just thoughts.
It's
Thanks.
a portable kit. So this is what's interesting. So actually, let me see. I might be able to find it. Give me one moment. I'm gonna look at Messenger. See, where is it? I might be able to find the let's see, pinned. How do I find pinned stuff? Let's see, chat info maybe. View pinned messages. All right, here I found it. Oh shoot, what was it? Let's see. See in chat. It's let's see. Sefer Bereshit. Sure. All right. Hopefully, I'm able to find it. Okay. Let's see. Okay, here. Kativ lo tita lecha Asherah, kol etzetzel mizbeach Adonai Elohecha asher ta'aseh lecha. So you shall not plant for yourself. Oh, here, let me share. So you will not plant. You are not to plant for yourself an Asherah. Kol etz, any tree that is beside the altar of Adonai, your God. That Asher ta'aseh lecha, that Asher ta'aseh. Let's see. So it's saying you're not to plant for yourself. Any that is beside the altar of the Lord your God, that you may make for yourself. Etzel mizbeach. Beside etzel mizbeach. Beside the altar. V'chi le'ela. Let's see. Mene o ba'atar. I don't know. Is it ba'acharat after me'an? Okay, let's see. All right. Asher da as such, maybe Ba'ala de Itata, I don't know what it is. Itkriat, she's called Al Shum Ba'ala by the name of, or according to the name of her husband, Asherah. Ve'al da Kativ, and upon such is written, LaBaal ule Asherah, for Baal and for Asherah. Begin Kad, I don't know. Kativ lo tita, it is written, do not plant Lecha Asherah, do not plant for yourself an Asherah, any tree that is any tree beside the altar of Adonai your God. It's received Atar Dahahu Mizbech. I don't remember what Atar is. Shoot. Dahahu Mizbech Adonai. Daha Mizbech. The altar of Adonai. Oh my God, I'm so rusty on this. Kayama Alda Ve'alda Lekabla. Lo tita lecha Asherah acharat. Do not plant an. Okay, let's see. Ketov lo tita lecha Asherah kol etz. Okay, where is this? Lecha etzel mizbeach. Okay, so here it's breaking it down. So okay, etzel mizbeach. And because lemala from above mimenu, from above from it, or in the place after. Me hitir, who remains, maybe I don't know. Ela hare, like I think that means behold. I might be wrong though. Ela hare be'arenu. I don't know. Asher zeh ba'ala, as such ba'ala shaha isha, he that she is the woman or the wife. That she is the wife, Nikrat al Shem, that is called by the name of her husband, Asherah. Ve'alzeh ketuv, and upon it is written, Labal and Asherah. Wait, I already read that, I thought. Is this just okay? Wait, let's see. Where is it? I'm just going to find it from here because I know it's here. Let's see, where is it? Okay, let's see. Okay, here it is. It says in Deuteronomy, you shall not plant for yourselves an Asherah or any kind of tree beside the altar of the Lord thy God, which Asher you may make for yourselves. Are we to suppose that anywhere else it is permitted to plant an Asherah? Of course not. The truth is that the Hey, the letter of God's name that represents the feminine divine, is called Asherah, after the name of its spouse Asher. And the meaning of this verse is, therefore you shall not plant another Asherah by the side of the altar which is established upon this Asherah. Observe that throughout the scriptures, the worshippers of the sun are called servants of Baal, and the worshippers of the moon, servants of Asherah. Hence the combination to Baal and Asherah. If this is so, that Asherah is the name of the feminine aspect of God, why is it not used as a sacred name? The reason is that this name brings to mind the words of Leah, happy am I, for the daughters will call me happy Ishruni. But this is not called happy by... But this one is not called happy by other nations, and another nation is set up in its place. It is written, all that honored her despise her, Lamentations 1:8. But the real altar is one that is made of earth, as it is written, an altar of earth you shall make for me. That is why it says in Genesis, dust from the earth. Zohar 1:49a. So, you have any thoughts before we close out?
Just as you were talking there, it's flashed on the idea of Asherah being the spouse of Asher and the implications of that, which we need to talk about another time since we're wrapping. Tag.
Definitely, yeah. But it also really makes me think there's something to the whole idea of, and actually, I don't know if we might have not gotten to this part yet, but here, let's see, where is it? Let's see, rod of Aaron. Here.
Ripple effects and may lead to
in some areas.
On the edge.
Now remember,
almonds became an
it might not be almonds, it might be almond-shaped buds.
important
important symbol for Israel very early on in the nation's development. After the Exodus, Moses received instructions to build the tabernacle, a portable sanctuary where God would meet with the leaders of Israel. The lampstand of the tabernacle was made to artistically represent an almond tree with its detachable lamps shaped as stylized almond blossoms. Then, when faced with dissatisfaction over Aaron's leadership as the high priest, God miraculously caused Aaron's staff to sprout, bud, blossom, and produce ripe almonds overnight. This was a clear symbol of God's choice in priest, but also carried a decidedly stern warning with it. The staff was kept in front of the Ark of the Covenant as a sign to the rebellious so that they would not grumble and die as a result. The almond-bearing staff of Aaron became a warning to all who would strive against God. The almond tree appears again in the wisdom literature of Ecclesiastes 12, a chapter that's describing the end of life and encouraging the reader to remember God before the time when the people are afraid of heights and of dangers in the streets, when the almond tree blossoms and the grasshopper drags itself along and desire is no longer stirred. Then people go to their eternal home and mourners go about the streets. Commentators often remark that due to the almond tree's white blossoms, this may be referencing graying hair. But in this context, it may also reveal the almond's association with coming destruction. This association is again revealed in Ezekiel 7, which is describing the end of Israel. Verses 10 and 11 say, "See the day, see it comes. Doom has burst forth. The rod has budded. Arrogance has blossomed. Violence has arisen, a rod to punish the wicked. None of the people will be left." The blossoming rod of Aaron has again made an appearance, this time not just as a warning to the wicked, but because in their arrogance they have not heeded the warning of the rod, it now carries with it a sure punishment of sin. Almonds make another significant biblical appearance in Jeremiah chapter 1. During Jeremiah's call to become a prophet, God converses with him. "What do you see, Jeremiah?" "I see the branch of an almond tree," I replied. "The Lord said to me, 'You have seen correctly, for I am watching to see that my word is fulfilled.'" There seem to be two things going on here. First,
No, I did have a question there.
God's
Oh.
using
Yeah, go ahead.
So they had almonds in addition to manna through the desert, or was it that they used the almonds to flavor the manna?
play on words because the Hebrew word for almond sounds like the Hebrew word for watch. God is watching to see that his word is fulfilled. Jeremiah sees an almond branch. However, given the previously established symbolism of an almond staff as a dire warning from God, this also perfectly sums up what Jeremiah's main prophetic message will be. Judgment was coming to Judah because of their rebellion against God. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this spotlight, please like it, share it with a friend, and leave us a comment below on what you thought. Also, don't forget to click the bell and subscribe for the latest Bible Discovery content.
recordings just got better. Hey, it's Dana from StreamYard. I'm so excited to announce
The story behind Aaron's staff and what it represents. The staff of Aaron, rod, and shadow are significant because they were the objects which symbolized his office as high priest and prophet. God gave the staff as a sign of authority to man. In addition, the rod was used to punish the children of Israel. The significance of these objects is that they were related to Aaron's position as a leader and a representation of his authority. In the Bible, Aaron's staff symbolizes his power as a prophet. The Bible also mentions the staff of Moses and Aaron, who were both given one by God. The Bible explains in the book of Exodus that the Lord told Moses, "Bring 7 Jewish elders to the tabernacle. Their elders have wise knowledge and leadership skills, which they instill in the younger generation. They are entrusted to continue the traditions of their people and hold authority over them." It is also stated in the Bible that Aaron's staff was turned into a snake by Moses to stop the staff from harming him. In Exodus chapter 3, Moses asked God to turn the staff into something else. So Moses said to God, "O Lord, please send someone else." God replied, "Who am I sending?" "Send Aaron." Then Moses said, "But he is right here standing before you." "I know that he is standing before me," replied God. "You don't have the power to send him anywhere now. He will go with you and do whatever I command him to do." Moses told the Lord that he had not spoken well, and no one had taught him. He said he was slow in speech. God told Moses to take Aaron's staff and touch it to the ground 3 times. Numbers 20:8. Moses was then to speak with the Lord. Moses spoke with God and told him that he had not been good at speaking and that no one had taught him. God told Moses to take Aaron's staff and touch it to the ground 3 times. Then Moses was supposed to speak with the Lord directly. In addition, Moses was slow in his speech. He acknowledged that he needed help to improve his communication skills and asked for God's guidance. After receiving instruction, Moses proceeded to use Aaron's staff as a tool to better connect with God. Moses' staff was used to perform miracles, such as turning water into blood and bringing forth frogs. The story behind the legend of Aaron's staff. The story behind the legend of Aaron's staff has been passed down for centuries. In Hebrew, the word Aaron means high mountain, as this staff was said to have been a rod that could rise high enough to reach the sky. This rod was made from almond wood and had a rod of gold affixed to its end. Moses would use it to murder the Egyptians by striking them with it. Jacob took the staff from Moses when he split the family into 2 groups during their stay in Egypt. The staff was passed down through his descendants and became known as Aaron's staff. The scripture says in Exodus 4:2, Aaron turned his back and beheld, the calf had vanished from before them. Pharaoh changed his mind and allowed Israel to leave Egypt. The staff was passed down through his descendants and became known as Aaron's staff, symbolizing power, leadership, and authority.
Yosef is taken down to Mitzrayim. And Baruch Hashem, Givaldik, some great smelling agents are there, perfumes. Rashi explains, even though normally the Arabs carry disgusting smelly things with them, from the miracle, changed everything in nature, and these Arabs are carrying deliciously smelling perfumes. Great. Who cares? Imagine, Chas v'sholom, person is kidnapped by the Hezbollah. They're taking him now to interrogate him. And on the way to the interrogation room, what is this delicious smell? Who cares? You think Yosef cares about perfume now? Who cares? 9 different ways to understand it. Slabota. In Slabota, they always speak about Gadlusa Adam. A Slabodokian, would you say that? Can you say that? Slabodokian? Kind of hard to say. If he goes to the hospital, he keeps his suit on. Gadlusa Adam. You don't wear the hospital pajamas. Gadlusa Adam. So here too, Gadlusa Adam. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives you perfume so you can maintain and preserve your Gadlus. Novardok, exactly the opposite. Shiflus Adam. Look at that. We're not judging Yosef, but a person was detached from his family. He is being taken to become a slave. He is taken to a foreign land. And yet, a little perfume can make a guy happy. Oy vey, shiflus Adam, this is what you're thinking about. In Brisk, everything is zwei dinim, 2 different matters, 2 different inyanim. There is a din of oynish, it's punishment. And as far as punishment, he is sold to the Egyptians. But Yosef also has a din of sachar. And from the din of the sachar, from the reward, he is getting some good smelly perfumes on the way. Sfardim, so Sfardi shul. Sfardim always use besamim, every single event. In a wedding, in a mourner's house. Always. So therefore, here's a big massive here. It's a big event. You need to have perfume. Hasidim, exactly the opposite. If one adorns and puts on a perfume, it's lo yilbash. It's a woman's garment. What are you doing? He says, oy vey, this is part of the punishment of Yosef. Not only is he led to Mitzrayim, he also has now to have lo yilbash. He has to have the garments of a woman. In Polovitch, Rav Shmuel Wazowski always used to warn and guide his talmidim. Make sure you're always thinking belimud. You're going back home, think belimud. You're going to a friend's wedding, think in learning. Yosef wanted to do just that, but he can't. Normally, the Arabs are carrying terrible smelling things. You can't learn Torah in that environment. So Kodesh Baruch Hu makes a nest to have perfume in order for Yosef to be able to be chazering what he learned. Seventh malach, Reb Chaim Shmulevitz. Chaim Shmulevitz says, they remember you. It's like a little kiss from Shemaim, a little smile, a wink. Yes, you're taking down to Mitzrayim, but don't think it's organized by the Egyptians. I'm the one organizing it. Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and he smiles to Yosef, he winks in his eye, and he gives him a little smell of perfume to say, don't worry. We remember you from up here. Everything is from Shemaim. In Breslov, they say, even in terrible crisis, they send great lights, orot, great lights to a person. To receive perfume in this situation is like a major projector from Shemaim. So don't worry, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with you. Rabbi Yerucham Mimir, he explained, look at how exact the punishment is. When one has to receive punishment, he will receive the exact punishment. The exact punishment, but not even 1 ounce more. So if Yosef, according to the punishment upstairs, is supposed to receive being sold as a slave to the Egyptians, that's what he's going to receive. But if part of the punishment doesn't include to smell something which is not so pleasant, he won't smell it. The dikduk hadin is so great that everything is coming to you, you're going to get, but not even a drop more, because everything is from Shemaim. So there's 70 panim to the Torah. We showed 9.
Anyway, any thoughts on that? We'll close out after this. Graham?
Yeah, I'm here. No, sounds good.
Oh,
I don't have anything to add to that.
Oh, also before I forget, let's see. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah temed v'chaye olam nata b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. All right, and we finished with chapter Terumah, and so now we're on. We're down here now. 28. Tetzaveh. Oh, interesting. So it starts just 20, 21. Okay, so this will be interesting. So we're going to get into what they're going to do, like what they're like. So it's not just what they're supposed to build, not just what they do, but what they're supposed to perform. And so we'll get into that next week or in a few days. Probably start on Sunday. Actually, no, I want to be at a wedding, so probably not Sunday, maybe Monday. Anyway, on that note, we shall close out now. Oh, wait, sorry, that was the wrong one. Also, let me clear up the comment from the also, yeah, great to see you. So, sorry, okay, here. Here. So, brand. So we are closing it out. Well, not that, but not yet. But where is it? It's up here.
Want to tell the Rebbe the words of the new song that we're singing with Mashiach, right? So I'm just going to read him. Am Yisrael, have no fear. Mashiach will be here this year. We want Mashiach now. We don't want to wait. Okay? Mashiach now, we want Mashiach now, oh yeah, Am Yisrael, have no fear, Mashiach will be this year. Am Yisrael, have no fear, Mashiach will be here this year. We want Mashiach now, we want Mashiach now, we don't want to wait. We want Mashiach now, we don't want to wait.